We beseech you to behold with your abundant favor as your servants, whom you have been pleased to call to performance of important trust in this republic. Let your blessing descend up us upon here. Let your blessings descend upon us here assembled, and grant that we treat, consider all matters that shall come under our deliberations in so just and faithful a manner as to promote your honor and glory, and to advance the peace, prosperity, and welfare of our country and of those whose interests you've committed to our charge. Amen. Order, members. We had to really counter-check the numbers because you are very close to the required number, but we've just fallen short, and therefore I order the bell to be rung for 10 minutes.
A quorum hitch in the National Assembly this Wednesday morning, and the quorum bell is ringing as ordered by the Deputy Speaker of the National Assembly, Honorable Moses Cheboy, and this is just to implore upon members to come in and constitute that quorum, a minimum 50 required as per their standing orders in order for business to be transacted in the House. And once they do attain that number, then members shall proceed to consider the business listed on the order paper this morning. The first is a procedural motion to be moved by the leader of Majority Party, Honorable Aden Duale, who is already in the chambers, and he will be seeking exemption of business from the provisions of Standing Order 40, Clause 3, and so as to allow for members this morning to discuss a business that is not sponsored by private members, and that is a motion on a report on audited financial statements for constituencies in Kisumu County. And this one will be via a report presented by the Chairperson Special Funds Accounts Committee. This debate started yesterday afternoon. There is also another motion on a report on alleged irregular specialist recognition of Dr. Samira Soni by the Kenya Medical Practitioners and Dentists Board. Also listed, 9 questions. The members will be seeking from relevant committees. They will be seeking answers this morning once we attain the numbers. The members of the House leadership, the Chief, Majority Whip, and Minority Whips are doing their best to rally members to come in and constitute that quorum, which will then allow for them to continue with business. As I mentioned, 9 questions will be sought this morning. And it appears we do have a quorum.
Order, members. Order. We now have the required quorum. So business will begin.
Order number 1, administration of oath. Order number 2, communication from the chair. Order number 3, messages. Order number 4, petitions.
Under that particular order, Honorable Joash Nyamoko, member for North Mugirango, has something. Is he in the House? Yes, I see. Proceed, Honorable Nyamoko.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I stand to present a public petition, petition number 003 of 2017, regarding transfer of TVET lecturers from the Teacher Service Commission to Public Service Commission. I, the undersigned, on behalf of the Technical Teachers Training Institutions lecturers in the country, draw the attention of this Honorable House to the following. That following the enactment of TVET Act 2013, that requires the management of TVET institutions and their trainers be under the respective governing councils and board of governors, a decision was made to transfer trainer management function from the Teacher Service Commission with effect from 1st July 2018 to Public Service Commission. That as at July 2018, there were 102 TVET institutions in the country, which Teacher Service Commission deployed lecturers and discharged all teacher management functions. That the Teacher Service Commission initiated the process of handing over the 102 TVET institutions with a teaching staff of 3,780 to the Ministry of Education, State Department of Vocational and Technical Training, that a total of 3,780 lecturers on Teacher Service Commission payroll were transferred to the Ministry of Education. However, the payroll was transferred with effect from 30th August 2018. That since September 2018, the petitioners have had reduced salaries and their remunerations. That there is no scheme of service for the trainers in the Ministry of Education, for the TVET lecturers. That over 30 newly established and equipped TVET institutions in the country, they have neither principals nor lecturers, which is a waste of public resources. Furthermore, budgetary provisions for recruitment of 2,000 additional trainers appropriated in the financial year 2018-2019 may not be realized in time due to the current confusion in the ministry. Further, that a number of TVET institutions have no functional board of governors, that the Directorate of Technical Education under the Ministry of Education is a policy maker and therefore cannot carry out trainer management functions. That efforts to resolve this matter with relevant government agencies have been futile, and that the matter in respect of this petition is raised is not pending before any court of law, constitutional or legal body. Therefore, your humble petitioners pray that the National Assembly, through the Departmental Committee on Education and Research, one, recommends that the trainer management and development function be domiciled under the TVET Authority as envisaged in the Technical Vocational Education and Training Act of 2018. Number two, recommends that the relevant ministry develops a scheme of service for the trainers. And number three, makes any other order or direction that it deems fit in the circumstances of the matter. And your petitioners will ever pray. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Very well. And I'll give probably a maximum of 3 members to make a comment, brief comment. We'll start with the Honorable Opio Wandai.
Mr. Speaker, thank you very much. I'm happy to get this opportunity to make some comments on that worthy petition presented by the Honorable Nyamuku. Mr. Speaker, this is a matter that needs to be taken up with utmost seriousness by the relevant committee, the committee chaired by my friend Honorable Meli. Mr. Speaker, the the transfer of the function of the management of the staff of TVETs from TSC to the Ministry of Education, of course, was informed by the TVET Act 2018. But I think the committee should seriously have a look at that act. Because as we speak, there is a lot of vacuum. There's a very, very big lacuna. Because TVETs play a very key role. And in fact, Honorable Speaker, you know, we are investing a lot of money as a country in establishing institutions, TVET institutions all over. But then the critical aspect of management and teaching is still left in abeyance as a result of the confusion that was caused by this act. So I suppose that the committee will take up this matter and address it conclusively. But even as they do so, the management of the TVET department in the Ministry of Education also needs to style up. They need to pull up their socks. I've had occasion to engage with them in my other capacity as chairman of PAC. Yeah, they need to up their game so that the TVET function is not left behind. Okay? We know the problems that teachers are facing under TSC.
To be brief,
we don't want those problems to be extended to the ministry, which is ill-equipped to address the matters of management of teaching staff. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Yeah.
Honorable Dr. Wamalwa, member for community.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Chair,
Mr. Speaker.
And the chair, Catholic members of Parliament.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for that recognition. Mr. Speaker, I want to thank Honorable Nyamoko for this particular petition. Mr. Speaker, the government has spent so much money to put up the TVETs as one way of going to fulfill the Big Four agenda. And Mr. Speaker, in many jurisdictions, you find that TVET plays a critical role, particularly when it comes to preparing youth to the job market. This is the way to go, Mr. Speaker. But unfortunately, most of these TVETs, Mr. Speaker, up to now, the principles have not yet been posted, Mr. Speaker. We are aware that the government is going to give 30,000 every student of TVET under the Kenya University and Colleges Central Placement. And up to now, the applications have not yet been done, so we need to move with speed so that this can be done. And as we do this, Mr. Speaker, most of these trainers are coming from TSC. And I'm also here to learn that there's no scheme of work. So it is important, Mr. Speaker, that there must be the scheme of service. There must be a proper management system that is going to ensure aspects of quality, Mr. Speaker. And again, as this TVET Act was done, the level of public participation, Mr. Speaker, we don't know whether NAT and the CUPET were actually involved in this matter when this issue was coming up. Because the CUPET and the NAT are the ones
What
to
is your
represent
point of order,
the
Honorable
issues when I'm...
Omboko Milemba? What is it? Honorable Omboko Milemba.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I think my point of order is that is it in order that the Honorable Member mentions organizations that are not in Parliament represented now in this particular matter? But I think later on I had requested that I make my comment on the same. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Now you have lost it.
You know,
you have completely lost it. Finalize. What is it, leader of majority party?
Speaker, organizations are not represented in this House. Yes. The people of Kenya are represented. And Honorable Mulamba, if you think you are representing Kupet, you are wrong. You are representing the people of Muhaya.
Yeah, you
are not representing Kupet here. When you go out of the chamber, you can represent even the women caucus. Or even you can represent the Juakali. So, Mr. Speaker, can you rule him out of order that there are no institutions represented here? And Honorable Wamalwa is right.
You are absolutely right. In any case, if there was any such representation, we have a nominated member or a series of nominated members who are here on specific interests, like of course the Honorable 001 there. and Honorable, and other nominated members. And in terms of you asking him to represent the Women Caucus, I think Honorable Pasaris does that perfectly well. In any case, he has actually been able to marshal quite a number of members, unfortunately for the morning session, when actually the main thing should have been in the afternoon. So he's out of order, definitely. Proceed, Honorable Dr.
Thank you,
Wamalwa.
Mr. Speaker. Honorable Malemba, I've always known he's a fast student, a quick learning student. But unfortunately, Mr. Speaker, it's only that when you mentioned Kupet, he thought someone was going to take over his position in Kupet. He didn't understand what I was actually presenting, because I was just questioning the level of public participation when you are passing the TVET, because you find that these teachers are moving from TSC to the public service. So my concern was in the public participation, what was the input? Forgive him, Mr. Speaker. And he's been lamenting that he was removed from the House business. Since the time he was removed from the House business, Mr. Speaker, he has not been paying that attention, but he's a good representative of the teachers and is my very good friend, Mr. Speaker. So thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I support the petition, and we are humbly requesting if the relevant committee can be able to expedite so that we move on.
Okay.
Thank you.
I had ruled that I'm not going to give Honorable Mboko Milemba a chance to have a say in this. But since you have all mentioned him many, many times, I am tempted to give him a shot, a shot at that, and because there are quite a number of members who mentioned him. Honorable Milemba.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, and with humility, I want to thank you. Honorable Speaker, each time I make a mention here, like you notice, I receive a lot of attention, but that's very good. Thank you. What I wanted to say is that it's true I support that particular petition, because when we made the law to move the teachers from TSC to TVET, that law was done without enough public participation. The teachers who later on have been moved from TSC to TVET have missed salaries, Honorable Speaker, for the last more than 4 months. Today, the TVET understanding of management of teachers cannot trace where the teachers are, Honorable Speaker, cannot trace which teacher is going even to work and how to discipline them. So there is actually space and a gap in how these teachers can be managed. I support this petition and actually say that we need to have a proper law that will make a strong TVET institution that will manage these teachers just the same way teachers are managed under the Teacher Service Commission. Honorable Speaker, I want to thank you for this opportunity. I'm not representing the union here. I'm representing the people of Emuhaya and every Kenyan. Thank you, Honorable Speaker, for this opportunity. Thank you.
But you see, Honorable Amalwa, now you see the value of having some professional advice. You can see he's very well articulate and well versed in that particular area. So might be he's not representing specifically Kupet here, but he has a wealth of knowledge in that field, and that can be seen from the contribution that he's made. Now, the last one, unfortunately, I don't see anybody to my right, so I'll give the last one, Honorable Mbui Robert, the last one on it.
Yeah, thank you, Speaker, for this opportunity. Speaker, I also stand to support that petition. I think it's in good taste, and I think basically it will go a long way in ensuring that the rights of these teachers are protected. Mr. Speaker, my concern is actually about the committee that is receiving this petition. And I would like to urge the committee that as they receive this petition, they do a thorough job. And Mr. Speaker, I'm raising this because last Parliament, I issued a petition to the Committee of Justice and Legal Affairs Committee that was basically seeking, asking about the compensation of parents and guardians of the victims of the Changuli fire tragedy. Mr. Speaker, I have received a report from that committee, and it is so shocking, Mr. Speaker, because the conclusion on that report says that the committee should invite the AG to go and tell them why there was no compensation. So I think that the committees, as they receive these petitions, they have to be thorough. You have to give a conclusion that makes sense. Because if we bring a petition, it's because there's a problem. And if you give a conclusion saying that we should now invite, that means basically you have not done the work that you're expected to do. So, Mr. Speaker, I'd like to urge that JLAC goes back and looks at that petition of mine on behalf of the people of the victims of Changuli and gives us a response that makes a lot of sense. Not one saying that they should invite people. They had the opportunity to invite, and I think that is what the committees are there to do. So thank you, Mr. Speaker, for the opportunity. I support.
Members to my right that I have not given, I'll give only one opportunity, therefore. That would be Abdullahi Sheikh. Abdullahi Sheikh. But you should have placed it at the intervention. So Abdullahi Sheikh, please.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I stand in the first place to support this petition. It's timely. And the TVET Act of 2013 has not been fully operationalized. And I think most of the functions are still being carried out by TSC. And it's high time that that function of management and training of the lecturers be taken up by the TVET board. TSC currently is grappling with teachers' management. So adding more work for them and loading them will not be of help to the Kenyans, especially from where I come from, in northern Kenya. TSC has completely failed in management of teachers. They are the ones who have actually caused shortage of teachers in our constituencies, in our areas. So trying to give them more work and loading them on TVET will not help. Very soon we'll also be hearing that the lecturers and teachers of TVET will be withdrawn from certain areas by TSC, because policy of TSC is not inclusive and is completely not in line with the aspirations of the normal teachers and Kenyans, especially in northern Kenya.
Okay.
So I think it's high time that the TVET authority takes over the management and running of TVET completely from TSC,
okay.
and that TSC remains with teachers training.
Let it be brief.
Thank you.
Now that, let it be brief, because you will have it before a committee, and therefore you can go and ventilate further. So that is committed to the relevant committee, which is Committee on Education. Next order.
Order number 5, papers.
We have Chair Budget Appropriation Committee. Are you ready? Yes. Proceed.
Honorable Speaker, I beg to lay the following paper on the table of the House today, Wednesday, February 27, 2019. Morning sitting report of the Budget and Appropriations Committee on the Budget Policy Statement and the Debt Management Strategy for 2019-2020 and the medium term. Thank you.
Very well. Chairperson, Public Investment Committee.
Okay. Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. I beg to lay the following paper on the table of the House today, Wednesday, February 27th, 2019, and this is the progress report of the Public Investment Committee on the inquiry into the proposed takeover of Jomo Kenyatta International Airport by Kenya Airways.
Very well. Next order.
Order number 6, notices of motion.
Budget Appropriation Committee Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I beg to give notice of the following motion, that this House adopts the report of the Budget and Appropriations Committee on the Budget Policy Statement and the Debt Management Strategy for the financial year 2019-2020 and the medium term, laid on the table of the House on Wednesday, 27th February 2019.
Chairman, Public Investment Committee, give your notice.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I beg to give the notice of the following motion, that this House adopts the progress report of the Public Investment Committee on the inquiry into the proposed takeover of Jomo Kenyatta International Airport by Kenya Airways, laid on the table of the House on Wednesday, February 27, 2019.
Very well. Next order.
Order number 7, questions and statements.
This particular order, I see nobody with a statement, so we'll go straight to questions. And the first member to ask a question is Honorable Kibe, Honorable Anne Wanjiku Kibe. You are completely out of order, the chair budget.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. My question this morning goes to the Cabinet Secretary for Interior and Coordination of National Government. Is the Cabinet Secretary aware that Gatundu North Sub-County Police Headquarters has been operating without Sub-County Police Commander from May 2018 to date? When will the National Police Service deploy the Sub-County Police Commander? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Very well. That will be replied to before the Departmental Committee on Administration and National Security. The next one will be the Honorable Esther Passaris, the member for the entire Nairobi County.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir. I beg to ask the question number 047 of 2019 to the Cabinet Secretary for National Planning, National Treasury and Planning. A, is the Cabinet Secretary aware that Nairobi County has not utilized the funds meant to cover emergencies for affirmative action groups as allocated from the National Government Affirmative Action Fund? B, could the Cabinet Secretary state how the funds for the financial year 2017-2018 were utilized and measures taken by the ministry to ensure that the funds are equitably shared and prudently spent? Thank you.
That one will be replied to before the Departmental Committee on Finance and National Planning. The next one is Honorable Member for Bonchari constituency. That is Honorable Oro Oyoka.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I stand to ask question 048 of 2019, directed to the Cabinet Secretary for Environment and Natural Resources. Is the Cabinet Secretary aware that the construction of the fertilizer factory at Sunika Sewage Treatment Plant in Bonchari constituency has stalled? B, is the Cabinet Secretary further aware that the untreated waste is being drained into Riveriana, also in Bonchari constituency, thus affecting the ecosystem? Lastly, at C, could the Cabinet Secretary undertake to ensure that there is proper treatment of the sewage effluents, toxic chemicals, and foul smell that is causing harm to the ecosystem? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
That one will be replied to before the Departmental Committee on Environment and Natural Resources. Next is, would have been Honorable Captain Rueda, but I am informed that due to circumstances beyond her, due to the fact that she's not in the House, with good reason, that one will be placed before the next sitting. Next is the Honorable Member for Baringo Central, Honorable Joshua Kandie.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I stand to ask question number 050-2019. This is directed to Cabinet Secretary for Health. Is the Cabinet Secretary aware that there are increased cases of hepatitis B in Baringo sub-county? B, what measures is the ministry taking to monitor, diagnose, treat, and contain the fatal infectious disease? Thank you.
Very well. That will be answered before the Departmental Committee on Health. The next will be Honorable Abdul Rahim Dawood, member for North Imenti constituency.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I want to ask the question number 051 of 2019, and my question is directed to the Cabinet Secretary for Lands. Number A, what is the status of implementation of the report of the task force on delineation and demarcation of the Greater Meru district and the boundary between Tharaka and Tigania districts appointed via Gazette Notice 11-412 of 4th of December 2008 under the chairmanship of Zachary Ogongo? B, what measures is the ministry undertaking to ensure that the disputes between Meru and Tharaka Nithi counties are resolved, and in particular, land disputes at Kwangombe in Nordimenti constituency? Mr. Speaker, this question I asked last year, and I'm asking it again. It never went through last year, so I hope this time it will go through.
Okay, well, let's see how it goes. That one will be replied to before the Departmental Committee on Lands. Next would be the member for Kisumu West constituency, Honorable Lago. Is actually operational, is only that you are a little too tall for it.
To the Cabinet Secretary for Interior and Coordination of National Government. Mr. Speaker, for the sake of the record, I wanted to say that the issue of the microphones not working in some of the desks should be addressed. It's been going on for the last 2 weeks now.
You know, the problem with it, Honorable Lago, is we are not so sure whether the microphone is not working or you are a bit too tall for the microphone. No. But either way, it will be checked.
Being too tall now, I'm now used to. I don't lift anything up, Mr. Speaker. Now, I'm okay with that. Mr. Speaker, I wish to ask question number 052 of 2019, directed to the Cabinet Secretary for Interior and Coordination of National Government. The Speaker, number A, is the Cabinet Secretary aware of the increased number of incidences of armed consultations? The Speaker, A, is the Cabinet Secretary aware of the increased number of incidences of armed robberies and burglaries in Kisumu West constituency, especially in North and South Kapunja, reported to Maseno Police Station between 1st November to date? B, what action has the police taken to apprehend and prosecute all suspects in these robbery incidences? And lastly, how effective is the coordination between the police and the public on the Nyumba Kumi initiative, and are the police keeping identities of informants confidential?
Well, that one will be replied to before the Departmental Committee on Administration and National Security. Now, the next will be the Honorable Kamawa Mashukuru, member for Kabete constituency.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My question is 053-2019, directed to Cabinet Secretary Education. A, could the Cabinet Secretary provide a list of all books and by subjects supplied to primary and secondary schools for the new education curriculum? B, what measures is the ministry putting in place to ensure that books and materials that enhance life skills among pupils and students are provided in schools? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Very well, that will be answered before the Departmental Committee on Education and Research. And next is Honorable Atandi, member for Alego Usonga constituency.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise to ask question number 054 of 2019 in today's order paper. And my question is addressed to the Cabinet Secretary for Labor and Social Protection. A, is the Cabinet Secretary aware that one Mr. James Omingo Juma of ID number 0985881 was irregularly dismissed from employment by the Kenya Revenue Authority, contrary to Section 45 of the Employment Act? And B, when will he be paid his dues or reinstated as directed by the court? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Very well. That one will be replied to before the Departmental Committee on Labor and Social Welfare. And that marks the end of that particular order, so we go to the next order.
Order number 8, procedural motion. Exemption of business from the provisions of Standing Order 40, subparagraph 3.
Leader of Majority Party.
Honorable Speaker, I beg to move that this House orders the business appearing as order number 10 and 11 in the order paper be exempted from the provisions of Standing Order 40, subsection 3, being a Wednesday morning, a day allocated for business not sponsored by the majority or the minority party, or business sponsored by a committee. Mr. Speaker, as of last night, we only had one motion, private members' motion, which we balloted at the House Business Committee. And procedurally, that motion, I hope this morning or in the afternoon, the member is supposed to give notice of motion. And having said that, so there was no business from the private members, a day allocated for them. But because we approved the resolution of the House yesterday, allowing the Speaker and the Clerk to fast-track the publication of the 30 private members' bills, which I hope will be done between now and Tuesday, then beginning next week, we will not even be having motions. We will be having private members' bills, which will be introduced for first reading, then sent to committees, and then, so we had no business. So we are in the event, and under that situation, then we had to bring in order number 10 and order number 11, which are committee reports, so that the flow of business this morning is not hampered. So that is the reason, and I'm sure members will agree with me that under the circumstance, this is a day slotted for private members, but because there was no business from the private members, all their bills now are going to the government printer for publication. Going forward, we will have more business from our colleagues. So we intend to do this procedural motion to give us leeway, if the House agrees with us, that we go to order number 10 and 11, the continuation of business for this morning. I beg to move and ask Honorable Mbandi, who was with me last night in the House Business Committee, to second.
Mr. Speaker, I want to second this procedural motion, and also just to echo what the Leader of Majority has said, that really we didn't have work or other proposed bills or motions that were ready from private members. But I think it need to go out clearly, although the Leader of Majority has said it, that it's not that private members have not generated bills, because I think it can be reported wrongly. The private members have really generated a record number of bills. In fact, I think this parliament is leading the previous parliaments in terms of proposed legislations from private members. However, they had not been processed to be ready for first reading or even second reading, but we have already, this House agreed or allowed the fast tracking of these bills. I'm sure from next week we'll start debating private members' bills and not motions, not urging. We'll be debating serious bills proposed by private members. Mr. Speaker, thank you very much. I second.
Very well. And therefore, I propose a question, which is that this House orders that the business appearing as order number 10 and 11 in the order paper be exempted from the provisions of Standing Order 43, being a Wednesday morning, a day allocated for business not sponsored by the majority or minority party, or business sponsored by the by committee. I put the question, which is that this House orders that the business appearing as order number 10 and 11 in the order paper be exempted from provisions of Standing Order 43, being a Wednesday morning, a day allocated for business not sponsored by majority or minority party or business sponsored by a committee. Will as many as of that opinion say aye? Aye. Many as of a contrary opinion say nay? The ayes have it. Next order.
Order number 9, hoja. Kufutilia mbali kwa ada za matibabu katika hospitali za umma za rufaa pindi mtu anapofariki. Hoja kuhitimizwa.
Hiyo ndio ile hoja ya Mheshimiwa Muhammad Ali, na inayobakia ni hoja kuhitimishwa. Nao najua kwa hakika kwamba mjumbe wa Suba ambaye ni kinara ya walio wachache katika bunge hili hawezi kuelewa hiyo. So nimesema kiongozi kwa wale hawajaelewa vizuri Kiswahili. Kiongozi. Hakuna mambo ambayo unatueleza hapo. Unasemaje Mheshimiwa Daktari Wamalwa? Ni hoja ya nidhamu. Ni hoja ya nidhamu.
Asante sana Bwana Spika. Kulingana na standing orders za hii nyumba, ningeomba kwa sababu
umesema vipi Mheshimiwa
mswada
hiyo sio mswada, ni hoja. Hii
hoja Mr. Speaker imekontributiwa na wengi sana. Sasa naomba kulingana na standing order ya 95 na mwemba mwenye hoja aje ajibu ili tuendelee na mambo mengine tafadhali. Asante sana.
Hivyo ndio vile nilisema kwamba
kuweka swali.
Daktari Wamalwa pia hakuelewa. Yaliyobaki ni hayo ambayo wewe mwenyewe umesema. Kuhitimishwa ni yenye wewe mwenyewe umeuliza mwenye hoja kufanya. Yaani kwa lugha ya Kimombo is to reply. Okay? So Mheshimiwa Ali, uwanja ni wako.
Asante sana Mheshimiwa Spika, na naomba kujibu hoja ambayo ni hoja tuliyoweza kuizungumzia wiki iliyopita. Kwanza kabisa nitaanza kutoa shukrani zangu za dhati kwa wabunge wote walioweza kuchangia hoja hii ambayo ilikuwa ni hoja ya kufutilia mbali ada za matibabu katika hospitali za umma za rufaa pindi mtu anapofariki. Natoa shukrani zangu kwa wabunge wote wale walioweza kuchangamka na kuchangia hoja hili wakiomba ya kwamba ipasishwe ili tuweze punguza mzigo kwa wananchi wa Jamhuri ya Kenya. Kuongezea tu kidogo ni kusema tu ya kwamba hoja hii itaweza, iwapo itapasishwa, itaweza kusaidia katika gharama ya mwananchi wa kawaida. Kwa mfano, sisi wabunge hatuna mamlaka kwa sababu ya
ni hoja ya nidhamu Mheshimiwa. Sio kinara, tutamuitaje sasa? Kiongozi ya walio wengi bungeni.
Mheshimiwa Speaker, umesikia Mheshimiwa Muhammad Ali akisema ikiwa nyumba itapasisha. Hiyo si Kiswahili sanifu. Ikiwa nyumba itakubaliana na yeye ama kupitisha. Yeye ameleta ile Kiswahili ya Sheng ati ukipasisha. Nataka umwambie aiondoe hiyo neno kutoka rekodi ya bunge.
Hebu tukusikize
Mheshimiwa Spika. Kupasishwa, kupitisha itategemea na lugha unavyoitumia. Unaweza zungumza Kiswahili ya Mvita, unaweza zungumza Kiswahili ya Kenya. Kwa hivyo kuna tofauti, lakini yote ni moja. Kupasishwa, kupitishwa, na inapitishwa na bunge na wabunge katika.
Hapo sikubaliani na wewe Mheshimiwa Ali.
Mheshimiwa Spika,
kwa sababu kama ulianza na Kiswahili ya Mvita, utaendelea na Kiswahili ya Mvita. Kama uko na Kiswahili cha Kenya ambayo umesema ikuwe ni Kiswahili cha Kenya. Yeah? So hiyo yako sijui sasa, endelea lakini
Mheshimiwa Spika, kuweka wazi, wacha tuseme iwapo bunge hili litapitisha hoja hii ambayo tuliweza kuileta wiki iliyopita. Mheshimiwa Spika, kwa ufupi nasema tu ya kwamba hii hoja itasaidia mwananchi wa kawaida katika masuala ya gharama za maisha, kwa sababu sisi wabunge hatuna mamlaka dhidi ya mambo fulani yanayotendeka katika taifa hili. Kwa mfano, swala la afya ni swala ambalo liko katika ugatuzi, ni swala ambalo wahusika wakuu katika kaunti ni magavana ambao wanafaa wasaidie katika mambo haya, lakini sio wote, wengine wameweza kuzembea katika majukumu yao, hivyo basi kutuletea kazi kubwa zaidi. Mheshimiwa Spika, mimi nataka kusema tu, labda wiki iliyopita sikuweza kugusia mambo mawili, na hiyo ni kusema ya kwamba kwa mfano katika hospitali ya rufaa ya Kenyatta ambayo ni ya kitaifa, nilitaka kutoa mfano na kusema ya kwamba kila wodi ina vitanda 4 na kwa ujumla wana wodi kama 50. 78% ya Wakenya hawawezi lipa, kwa sababu katika wodi hizi utapata watu wanalazwa chini, utapata watu hawapati dawa, utapata kuna uhaba wa madaktari. Kwa hivyo chanzo kubwa kabisa inayosababisha vifo ni kuzembea katika serikali kuweza kuboresha sekta ya afya. Hospitali ya Kenyatta pekee kwa mfano inapoteza shilingi 600,000 kwa siku kwa watu wasioweza kulipa. Shilingi 600,000 kwa siku kwa watu wasioweza kulipa. Na hao watu wanashindwa kulipa kwa sababu ya nini? Wanashindwa kulipa kwa sababu ya maradhi kama vile saratani au figo. Swala la Linda Mama ambaye serikali inaweza kuwajibika na kulipia akina mama na kutoza ada ya shilingi 17,000. Lakini swali tunalofaa tujiulize ni kwamba katika hii Linda Mama, je, ikizidi 17,000?
Mheshimiwa Namsi Shaban, una hoja ya nidhamu? Ni nyingine. Endelea Mheshimiwa Ali.
Shukrani Mheshimiwa Spika. Nasema kama Linda Mama wanalipa shilingi 17,000, lakini hii haimudu kujifungua kwa upasuaji. Wanasema kwa lugha ya Kimombo cesarean. Mwanamke anapojifungua kwa upasuaji, hatima yake iko vipi? Je, mtoto ambaye anazaliwa kabla ya siku yake, hatima yake iko vipi? Na hivi ndivyo vipengele ambavyo tunaangalia kwa undani na kuhakikisha ya kwamba mwananchi huu wa kawaida angalau aweze kusaidika. Leo tutaweza kufanya kuhesabu watu census, tutatumia shilingi bilioni 6. Haya, kuna kauli mbiu ya kura ya maoni referendum, zaidi ya shilingi bilioni 18 itatumika. Hizi pesa zinatumika kwa mambo ambayo hayana uzito kwa mwananchi wa kawaida. Hizi pesa badala zitumike katika afya, badala zitumike katika ujenzi wa taifa hili, zinatumika katika masuala ambayo hayasaidii asilimia kubwa ya Wakenya ambao ni asilimia 80 na ambao ni maskini. Mheshimiwa Spika, mimi nasimama kuzungumzia fundi wa mbao, nasimama kuzungumzia mfanyikazi wa mjengo, nasimama kuzungumzia mama wa mboga, dereva wa matatu, kondakta na wafanyikazi wote wa jua kali ambao wanapopoteza wapendwa wao, miili yao inazidi kuzuiwa katika vyumba vya kuhifadhia maiti na baadaye kutupwa. Mheshimiwa Spika, mimi naomba bunge hili liweze kupitisha hoja hii na tuweze kuendelea mbele kujenga Jamhuri ya Kenya. Asante sana.
Haya, asante. Naweka swali kwamba tukitambua kwamba ibara ya 43 ya katiba imebainisha kuwa kila mtu ana haki ya kupata kiwango bora zaidi cha afya kinachojumuisha haki ya kupata matunzo ya kiafya na kutonyimwa matibabu ya dharura. Aidha, ikifahamika kwamba gharama za matunzo ya kitabibu katika taasisi za kiafya za kibinafsi zingali ghali mno, hivyo kuwalazimu Wakenya wengi kupendelea kusaka huduma hizo kwa hospitali za umma. Tukizingatia kwamba licha ya bei nafuu ya matibabu katika hospitali za umma ikilinganishwa na hospitali za kibinafsi, bado Wakenya wengi hawamudu, hivyo basi kutumbukia kwenye madeni, ufukara na dhiki wanaposhindwa kulipa malimbikizi ya gharama za matibabu yao na ya wapendwa wao. Bunge hili linalazimisha serikali ya kitaifa kufutilia mbali gharama zote za matibabu ya wagonjwa wote wanaofariki wakipokea matibabu katika hospitali za umma za rufaa. Wenye wanaunga huo hoja waseme ndio. Wenye wanapinga waseme la. Wenye kusema ndio wamechukua. Next order. Now we have gone back to English. What is your point of order? What is your point of order?
Mheshimiwa Speaker, ninasimama kwa hoja ya nidhamu.
No, we are now back to
wale
English.
wamesema ndio wamechukua. Hiyo si Kiswahili. Hiyo si Kiswahili sanifu. Ungesema wale waliosema ndio wamekubaliana na bunge.
Kama Mheshimiwa Shaban ambaye mimi nasikia pia ni jirani wa Shaban Robert aliye ni mtu ambaye alifahamika sana Kiswahili, angesema kwamba tuko na Kiswahili cha Kigunja, tuko na cha Mvita na hata pia ya hapa Nairobi. Mimi nimetengeneza hiyo mambo ya hiyo swali kamili kabisa. Na hauna ruhusa kupinga mambo ambaye mwenyekiti wa siku ya leo amepitisha. It's gone. Now, let's go back to our English, honorable members. Let's proceed. Next order.
Order number 10, motion. Report on audited financial statements for constituencies in Kisumu County.
The leader of majority, because we are actually resuming debate, and of course, as you are aware, in the standing orders, the leader of majority and minority have preference according to your standing orders. It would be important for the members to speak relevantly. We will be speaking to the audit. You know, it's not just about saying how good CDF has done. We are speaking to the audited report. And I'm sure, of course, the leader of majority will be giving good guidance on it. Proceed, Honorable Leader of Majority.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, first I want to start by thanking and congratulating the Special Funds Committee for bringing this report that has done the examination from seven constituencies of Kisumu County. The Special Funds Account Committee is one of the watchdog committees formed to enhance oversight role of this House, Mr. Speaker. And the committee examines the report of the Auditor General laid before the National Assembly to ensure this probity, efficiency, effectiveness on how resources allocated by this House are used. And Mr. Speaker, since independence, there have been numerous attempts to enhance and improve the livelihood of the people of Kenya at the local level. They include the formation of the special rural development programs, the district development planning, the district focus for rural development by former President Moi's government. However, most of these programs failed to bring development in rural areas till the introduction of the National Government Constituency Development Fund. Speaker, CDF has seen a total change and transformation of the country with regard to the development of infrastructure and social amenities. It has brought a new face to our constituents in comparison to the previous practice, where members of parliament relied on the patronage and the goodwill from government of the day to deliver to constituencies. where members of parliament will queue before ministers and permanent secretaries for a school whose roof has been blown off for it to be repaired. Today, we can do that to uplift the life of our people. And Mr. Speaker, since the launch of CDF in 2003, our people at the grassroots have been able to make expenditure decisions. Our people themselves will sit and they will make expenditure decisions that maximize their welfare based on CDF. And CDF, Mr. Speaker, has also enhanced the local ownership of development projects. Today, every village, every ward, every division can own their development agenda through CDF. And CDF enhanced the local ownership of the development project. It has increased public participation, Mr. Speaker. It is the people who decide whether we build a school here or we buy desks or we pay bursary. So the local public participation, as envisaged in the Constitution and stipulated in the CDF, National Government CDF Act of 2015. Mr. Speaker, I had an opportunity to peruse this report. And one of the issues raised during the committee hearing is that of late disbursement of the Constituency Development Fund, which makes it impracticable for the fund.
What is confirmed, he has more latitude to do a lot more than when you are acting, because when you are acting, Mr. Speaker, the human propensity in us is such that you want to look over your shoulder before you make a hard decision, and we know that managers are meant to make hard decisions, not a very popular decision, but now because he doesn't know his future, he doesn't know what tomorrow holds in store for him, he acts in a manner which is not forceful enough. And probably that explains why, Mr. Speaker, we have not been able to receive the money from the Treasury, because he doesn't have the teeth to bite. He cannot really put his foot down to push the Minister for Finance or the PS to get the money, because he has not been confirmed. I don't know if it's a strategy to keep him acting for all this long, but Mr. Speaker, I think for purposes of good governance, for purposes of ensuring there is efficiency and there is coordination, a better coordination, the chairman, Mr. Masese, who is on acting capacity, needs to be confirmed. It's only fair that we also get Mr. Mbuno confirmed as a CEO, so that we are able to think more effectively and be able to serve Kenyans in a more better way, because that way they'll be settled and they'll be happy that they have been recognized by their way of serving Kenyans, Mr. Speaker. With those very many rewards, I can see you have minutes you have given me. I can see my time is up, but I want to appreciate the contribution from my members, that they appreciated the contribution of CDF to our people, and we need to work hard and ensure that a few cases we have of corruption, if any, in our constitution.
Honorable Ambura.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me this opportunity. It's Wambura Nyikal, so the Speaker has chosen, he can take an enemy. Yes, I am. Yes, I am.
Proceed, Honorable Dr. Nyikal. I mean, you cannot be responding to members. I have given you the opportunity. You have the mic. Proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me the opportunity. Mr. Speaker, let me start by appreciating the work of this committee. Mr. Speaker, since I came to this House, the report we have gotten on CDF, really, this is the first time we are getting very clear reports, and the committees has really worked well on these reports. They have been on time, and Mr. Speaker, the quality of this particular report, I also find it extremely good. It's clear. The recommendations that are done are given are clear and easy to work on. They are actually supported by the appropriate acts and laws. So, Mr. Speaker, this is an extremely good report, and we must really support it. Mr. Speaker, the National Government Constituency Development Fund deserves a committee like this. Because, Mr. Speaker, this is an extremely important fund, and in my view, Mr. Speaker, this is probably the only fund that really meets the requirement of public involvement in public affairs. Mr. Speaker, in this fund, There's involvement of the people right from the time of project identification, the time of project implementation. Mr. Speaker, when we are identifying the projects, when we are doing public participations, I'm often amazed as how well the people are really aware of what their needs are and how they are consistent from year to year. They will say, last year we gave this request, it was not really responded to, so this year we would like it be done. That, Mr. Speaker, indicates that the people are involved, the people appreciate, and the people understand this fund. Mr. Speaker, in implementation, the provision of project management committee is an extremely important element in this fund, Mr. Speaker. We find that the people are involved in the procurement. Mr. Speaker, in our constituency, where the project management committees are involved in the procurement, you never get complaints because they are part and parcel of procuring the people or the contractors that are going to carry out the project. Mr. Speaker, their involvement in the monitoring, I've found it extremely useful that the involvement of the project management committee is such that it is easy to stop any attempts, either by the committee members itself or even by the contractors, to interfere with the projects, to interfere with the finances. And Mr. Speaker, that in my view has proved extremely important. Even supervision, Mr. Speaker, I've always found that if a project is not going on well, the committee members will actually come out that this, Mr. Mheshimiwa, is not going on well. So that involvement, I found it really, really useful. Even the authorization of payment, you will find committee members saying, we cannot pay because this project has not been implemented to our satisfaction. I think if we would do this in all other projects, we wouldn't have open fields being paid for as dams. So, Mr. Speaker, I found this is extremely a useful committee. Mr. Speaker, the other thing about this fund is the rapid response. It's the only fund that when the people have a problem, they actually report their problem to the constituency office, and within a short time, if a window of a school has been blown, they report, and within a short time, something can be done. Extremely important, and if we could do our national projects in a similar way, it would really go a long way in getting the people realize what the government is doing on their behalf. Mr. Speaker, all I'll say is that there's need to be flexibility in the rules regarding emergencies. There are times that what is emergency in the eyes of the public may not look like emergency for the board that is actually approving emergency expenditure. Mr. Speaker, I think that's an area we should look for. And Mr. Speaker, I do not know of any fund in government which is as cost-effective as CDF. The overheads is actually the lowest of any fund I know. So as members of parliament, we may pat ourselves on the back that this is where we get value for money. What is spent on administration is actually the lowest. And Mr. Speaker, I think this is a fund that we should support. The only
report, at least for once, the team was able to go to the relevant regions of this country and talk to fund managers, chairmen of committees, and members of committees, and hear their views. Mr. Speaker, there are three points that I wish to address to the committee. One has been raised before, and that's the issue of acting officers, right from the CEO of the board, Mr. Mbuno, who has been acting for so long. I think time has come for these officers to be confirmed. And that trickles down, Mr. Speaker, to the offices of regional coordinators and even fund managers. Right now for Kisumu West, my fund manager is acting for Kisumu East. And that takes a lot of time, so he's not able to concentrate on either East or West Kisumu. So where officers have got to act, the period should be reduced to a bare minimum so that substantive officers are appointed. Number two, Mr. Speaker, is the role of MPs in activities of the fund. I wish to address particularly the media. I think the role of MPs is defined as oversight. The persons who run CDF activities are the committees. But when something goes wrong, the media jump at MPs and say they are the ones who have gone wrong. Mr. Speaker, should be understood by all Kenyans
that MPs do not implement CDF activities. MPs are members of oversight committees. And when things go wrong, it's them who should be able to look at what has happened. And that, Mr. Speaker, leads to number 3 of my point. Number 3 is the cost of oversight. Mr. Speaker, in the
an opportunity politics, then you have to resign. And that explains why in a lot of constituencies, the fund managers are shared. Like now the fund manager for Makueni is also the one working for Kaiti constituency, which is a neighboring constituency. That means many other fund managers who are in the similar situation, as it was also witnessed in Kisumu County, are being overworked or handling duties, which includes other constituencies' duties, and for that reason, they may not handle one constituency effectively. And I believe the board will soon be recruiting or give an opportunity to some of those who went to try their hand in politics and were unsuccessful to come back so that they could continue the good work they've been doing as fund managers. So that explains why we've had some issues with fund managers and why the new members found themselves sharing a fund manager with a neighboring constituency. It can really be a challenge for that particular fund manager. And you remember also from the presentation yesterday, the fund manager is the IE holder, is the one responsible for the monies which come to every constituency in the country. And that happening, it means he has to take full responsibility. And they usually work with the district. Honorable Junet, Mr. Speaker, okay, he tells me he's weeping, he's playing his role. So let me go back to the point. You will find that these particular fund managers have to work with the district accountants to make sure that the monies are utilized effectively and are accounted for. And in case something goes wrong with audit, then they are responsible and they should be able to explain about the audit reports which come from respective constituencies. Of course, the role of MP is oversight, and there's also the issue of emergencies, which has come up and it's not very clear what should happen. Yesterday, I got a report from my constituents that a school called Kavudu had a problem, with the winds. And the roofs, were blown off in a way. So today, the chairman and the fund manager have visited that school, and I believe tomorrow they'll utilize the emergency monies, and the children will be safe. Because when roofs are blown off, especially when kids are in class, there is every danger of children being hurt in school. So you can see how effective CDF is. There's no other fund in the government which was as effective as CDF. We have seen what has happened to the counties. They have failed to utilize development monies in good time. A lot of time the development monies are returned. The financial years catch up with them before they've been utilized. And therefore, CDF should even be made more effective by legislation. I support the idea of amendments to the Act be brought to the House so that we can fine-tune what may have been left out so that Wanjiku and any other Kenyan can be served effectively at the grassroots. The main work is security installations such as chief's officers and the schools, the primary schools and the secondary schools. And in many constituencies, you can see changes. And because of the PMCs, the community is able to monitor and ask questions about this fund and make sure that no monies are wasted at all. And also in a lot of occasions, when you allocate CF funds to a school, the community also come in handy. In some places, they provide the local materials such as sand or bricks, and they're able to come up with very good constructions. There has been issue with the nursery schools, which now fall squarely under the county government. And a lot of times after public participation, some nursery schools have been left unattended, or the catching up, with the rest of the school. And you find that the infrastructure of nursery schools in some places is quite poor. And this is when you introduce a child to education, and they need the best facilities. possible. So in some cases in Makueni, I have assisted the county government. Once public participation has been done by the county government, I've done 1 or 2 nursery schools through CDF funds, just to make sure that the children first are safe if the infrastructure is weak, and secondly, that it rhymes with the neighboring school, of which most of them we have repaired them, and we make sure that the children have good facilities for education. And that explains why the primary schools in Makueni do very well in the national exams, because of the atmosphere in which they learn in. The other issue is issue of environment and the role of the CDF and environment, and also the role of CDF and the sports. Environment is very critical, and in a lot of occasions we've funded women groups with the CDF to do sand dams, conserve water, and even do seedlings, so that we can, we can increase the forest cover in the country, that every home can have tree seedlings, and they can also be able to work with the county government's departments dealing with the environment also. They can even acquire these seedlings from the groups supported by CDF, and that's what we do for environment. I'm sure the case is different in different parts of the country according to the needs, but environment is very critical. Probably in future, we need to increase the role of CDF on environment, because CDF works directly with the communities, and I'm sure we can really increase the trees in the country and improve the weather, because environment conservation is now a worldwide concern, and it is good when we have enough trees, for all purposes, for clean air, for construction, and this is best done through CDF because it works direct to the people. When it comes to sports, we have quite a small percentage of monies allocated to sports through CDF. In our case, we have only managed to do sports equipment with it, and I'm sure it's also different depending on the activity undertaken in different constituencies in different regions in the country. It becomes clear that sports can be very, very useful, can be a form of employment, is only that it has to be stabilized. And if we are going to do the sports academies in every constituency, then the best way to work through is through CDF, so that it becomes, we have CDF projects, allocated money to do sports academies, and again, depending on the region in the country. And if we do that, we'll be able to tap the talent, and there will be support, such that people being supported through CDF initiative can end up in Olympics and can be able to show their case and can be able to make a living out of sports. So it's again, looking at the future, we should increase the amount of monies to support sporting activities through the schools, which we also build, so that we can buy sufficient school equipment for volleyball, for netball, for table tennis, which are Olympic sports. And I believe through CDF we can be able to tap a lot of talent in the country, in the area of sports. And finally, Mr. Speaker, we have an issue of the regional managers. If you look at the structure of CDF administration as it is now from the board, we have a CEO who has acted for a long time. This House has pronounced itself several times that this CEO be confirmed. The committees concerned have pronounced themselves, and I think it's a high time now even the board was fully constituted, because we have a board which is lean, consisting of respective principal secretaries in 4 or so ministries, and even the regional managers now can be hired to deal with the regions specifically, making sure that we have full front managers in every constituency in the Republic. So I think it's a high time.
Very well. Honorable Manzo, your slot is gone. But I'll ask the clerk to notify the members in advance so that they organize their thoughts the time that you have. Now, before I give to the chair, whom I will give, the chair of Special Funds Accounts Committee, let's first have Honorable Cheruyot Jesire, member for Baringo.
Thank you, Speaker, sir.
I want to also support this motion on CDF and say, since the inaction of CDF, CDF has actually done a lot in our counties or constituencies where the members are coming from. We are a county or a country which is happy because of what that fund is doing. And for sure, it is what is making MPs more relevant to their constituents, because the development that comes with the CDF is very significant, and the members of the public are really appreciating. What I wanted only to say is that the CDF fund, before devolution, was working up to the health facilities, and currently, after devolution, the health facilities are no longer being facilitated by CDF, but the functions which were left for the county that were done for the CDF then must be relooked at, because many of the facilities which were constructed then by CDF fund are left hanging. Many of them are not functioning, and it is important that the county governments take over those facilities and make them serve the people. Because for real, there is no people for the, we don't have separate people for the constituent or constituent MPs, and we don't have separate people for the county or governors. So what I would want to urge is that those facilities which were constructed then must be taken up and be facilitated to serve the people, because it is a waste of resource. Another thing, Mr. Speaker, sir, about CDF, currently, as the members of parliament, or for me, many a times we get applications by the members of the public that they want to do a rampage for construction of schools, for construction of administration blocks and such like things. I think it would be important only if actually we strengthen CDF to fully support education in the counties, so that this fundraising is no longer projected again to us, whereas the government has provided some money that is going to do the specific function at the counties. So what I would like to urge is that this fundraising that is always arranged by the members of the public to develop schools should actually stop. If it means adding CDF fund to curb those shortcomings, let it happen, because we won't be able to be doing fundraising for hospital fee, fundraising for development of schools, whereas the government or the president with his directive, one time when I heard that the CDF fund be only used for security, construction offices or facilities, and schools, that is education specifically per se. I also know that in the fund, there is a sports fund in the CDF fund. I know it can be very controversial, but it would be only important if it would be arranged in such a manner that, because sports per se is a social function, would we be allowed as women MPs to have that sports fund to add to our affirmative action fund, so that we do the special, the sports fund or the social function, we leave the constituency MPs to do development functions per se, so that actually it is felt and it is going to be distinct, so that we are not doing work crisscrossing each other as the members of the county and constituency MPs. But so far, I really support the NGCD, because they are doing the most wonderful job around, and our country has really developed and has been seen, especially education-wise, to be doing very well because of CDF fund. So I really support this motion.
Let's have the chair of the Special Funds Accounts Committee, Honorable Murungi Kadhuri.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, for this opportunity. Actually, I want to make a few comments because I've really listened to the members. I will be very brief indeed, so that members can still talk to this motion. I wanted to just make some few remarks, because my colleague will be finalizing this motion at the end of the time. So, Mr. Speaker, members have already discussed about the disbursement of funds by the bond. And Mr. Speaker, especially the last few financial years, this has been a thorny issue, because in all the financial statements from the Office of the Auditor General, late disbursement to the Office of the Auditor General means that citizens, Kenyans, did not get value for their money because the projects were not completed, which were budgeted for. Like for this financial year 2017-18, this will really come up with all the audit issues, because the constituencies will not be able to absorb all the money, and this money is in the budget. So to the auditor's language, that means that the projects were not implemented, and Kenyans did not get value for their money that financial year. So that is an issue that should really be looked at, including, Honorable Speaker, the late disbursement is really affecting our students. It is now that all the constituencies for this financial year 2018-19, that the constituencies are about in the next few weeks to release the bursaries. Mr. Speaker, many students have been really affected. And I don't think that the government has been advocating for 100% transition from primary to secondary school. So there are so many students who are really waiting for the bursaries. And also, Mr. Speaker, the rate disbursement is affecting the increasing or building of more classrooms. Because of the transition, the demand for more classrooms is at the high peak. Therefore, the schools, we have allocated money for the classrooms so that these Form 1s could be settled in those new classrooms. But because of the rate disbursement, there is a lot of congestion in the schools, the dormitories, the classrooms, including the laboratories, Mr. Speaker, noting that this fund is specifically meant for education and security. Another issue that members have really discussed about is equitable distribution of this fund. Mr. Speaker, that is an issue that the Honorable Mauka Maole Rend Committee is looking into, so that because our recommendation is that constituencies are unique, and therefore several factors should be considered or determining the disbursement formula. Because what happens now is the money is divided by 290 constituencies flat rate. There are constituencies with very few schools indeed, even 5 schools, 20,000 students. Other schools like bursaries, some constituencies like where I come from, South Imend, we get over 10,000 applications. And all these are needy cases. There are other constituencies which get 2,000 applications. And then the same, we are given the same amount. Therefore, also that is an issue that should be addressed. On oversight, the oversight committees, Mr. Speaker, I think the regulations were not clear on the percentage that should go to the oversight committee. This is the most critical committee that we need in the constituencies, whose actually patron shouldn't be the MP, because constitutionally our work as MPs is to do oversight. Once the projects are done, we should have our committee. Actually, they were to be 5 members, 3 to 5 members to work as oversight committees run by the Member of Parliament. But then there was no money allocated, which was, they said, 0.1% of the monitoring and evaluation. There's money for monitoring and evaluation, which is actually used by the fund managers and the NGCDFC, shouldn't be slashed, because you cannot do the work and then you go still to mark your exam. That money should completely go to oversight, so that another committee can be able to oversee what the committee and the fund manager have done in the constituency. Our committee, my committee, actually has recommended 3% of the annual allocation to go to oversight committees. Not less than 2% should go to oversight committees, so that this can be done properly. Another issue, Mr. Speaker, is about the fund managers, acting fund managers or officers of the bond, starting from the CEO, the staff at the bond also acting, and also some of the fund managers still are in acting capacity. So we have really recommended the bond to be constituted as fast as possible, the NGCDF board of directors, so that they can be able to confirm these officers. Mr. Speaker, the other issue which was also raised by the member for Baringo is about the uncompleted projects. We have requested for an audit of all the stoned projects, especially those projects which were involved in the 2010 Constitution, especially dispensaries and the water projects. So we have really recommended that we should be given an audit of all these projects so that, if possible, they can be given conditional grants from Treasury so that these projects can be completed to serve Kenyans. Mr. Speaker, there are so many issues, but I want this House to note that my committee does not only sit on these NGCDF funds only. We have now completed only 2 counties, Nairobi and the Kisumu counties. And we have 45 more counties, including the one my colleague was requesting, Meru County, and others. Therefore, Mr. Speaker, we have a lot of work to do, but I really want to thank the Office of the Speaker, Office of the Clerk, and also my committee members, my team, because we have really trying to also look at others, because we have now 266 constituencies to attend to from 2013 to 2018, and then more 68 other funds, including GAF, the Popular GAF, and many other funds, political parties, judiciary funds, 68 more other funds, which we have planned to attend to during this session. So, Mr. Speaker, I want to thank you for giving me this opportunity, and also to assure members of this House that my committee will still continue being dedicated to our core mandate, and to make sure that as much as possible we cover all the remaining constituencies, and also to look at other critical areas that is under our mandate. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Before I get to my light, let's have Honorable Bui Robert.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Speaker, for this opportunity. I also rise to support this motion that we adopt this committee, the 3rd report from Committee of Special Funds led by the Honorable Kaduri Murungi. And this committee is doing a tremendous job, Mr. Speaker, considering they had a report here which had 17 constituencies, they had another report, and now they're dealing with 7 constituencies of Kisumu. Speaker, this debate could not have come at a better time because, you know, currently the media is talking about corruption. Our head of state has clearly stated that we need to fight this vice, all of us together. And I was shocked to realize that in this country, we have discovered how to make money globetrot. Because I heard there was money that was released from Central Bank, found its way to Milan in Italy, found its way to London in the UK, found its way back to Westlands in Nairobi. So basically, it looks like there's a lot of games being played with Kenyan money. So the House that I stand to speak in is a House that is supposed to be helping the head of state to ensure that we protect taxpayers' money. In fact, one of the responsibilities of members of this House is actually to oversight, to ensure that public funds are used properly and that no money is lost. So when we are discussing these issues, Mr. Speaker, it's good to point out that I read a report in the media, and the media is very interesting, because suddenly when it comes to bad things happening in the constituencies, the constituency now is named after the member. So suddenly becomes, the Kadhiani constituency becomes Robert Mbui. And the things that you will see there and you hear there are things to do with, when it comes to issues to do with theft. They will say MPs have fleeced, MPs have raided, and still MPs have stolen. Unfortunately, Mr. Speaker, we need to set the record straight. What is the role of members of parliament in CDF? Because there is a law which has been passed in this House, which is now operational. And it is very, very clear. We are only involved in identifying the projects that will be funded by the public funds. We are also involved in probably pushing for funds from the CDF board to go back to the grassroots and support those projects. And finally, Mr. Speaker, we are supposed to have a committee where we oversight how these funds are spent. So it is important that the media understands. If there is a loss of funds, please note, it is not members of parliament because we are not implementing agencies of CDF. Mr. Speaker, when I look at this report, I have read the one on Kisumu Central and all the rest, Mr. Speaker. And some of the issues that are raised are pertinent. But, Mr. Speaker, we need to figure out who is to blame for these things. I've seen issues to do with delay in giving records of expenditure from the PMCs. Mr. Speaker, the money of CDF is implemented through CDFC, which gives money to project management committees, which after that, implement the project. Now, these project management committees, when they are given funds, they are also supposed to account for it. So it is important that we point out if there is a delay from the project management committee, why is it happening? So that we can be able to address that. Because that's one of the issues I've noted. The other issue, Mr. Speaker, is the issue of bursary. Mr. Speaker, I hear a lot of issues about bursary and a lot of audit queries about bursary. Some of our constituencies, bursaries are given to over 10,000 recipients because there's so much problem that it's difficult to say we'll help so-and-so and leave so-and-so. The whole village stands up and everyone says all of us have problems. You ask them to identify those who have problems and all of them put up their hands. So your hands are tied because this is a kitty that is supposed to help the needy. And now the auditors come and they want to see receipts from 10,000 recipients. If somebody was given a check, they took to a school, they have not brought the receipt, now the fund manager, the MP, they are guilty of an offense. Mr. Speaker, we need to call a spade a spade. And I think some of these things, as the auditors are doing this, they need to know, is there a record that was prepared at the grassroots that identified the recipients? Were the checks released to them? That's what matters. But a receipt from the school to the CDF, it means we have to stop even coming to this house, go back to the grassroots, chase our head teachers, and some of the students of Kadhiani are in school in Mombasa. Some are in school in Kisumu. Will we go to Kisumu to talk to teachers and get receipts? So, Mr. Speaker, I think it's important that we know these things. There is an issue of unsurrendered interest, and I've seen this in a lot of our constituencies. I think the district accountants also have a role to play because the money goes through the district treasury. How does the district accountant give an interest to the fund manager, and before it is surrendered, they give another one? I think, honestly, that's a bit criminal. And some of these things shouldn't even reach here, because if somebody has not been able to account for the money they were given, the law is clear. CDF Act is clear, PFM Act is clear, they can't get further funding. So we will not also defend fund managers that are continuing to pick money from district accountants without accounting for what they have already spent. Mr. Speaker, there is an issue of incomplete projects. Now, sometimes because of the need for the money in CDF, and you have so many projects that need to be funded, you may choose one of the bigger projects to fund it in 2 phases, 1 year and the next year. Now, if you fund it 1 year and you do half of it, the auditor comes at the end of the year and starts complaining that this project is incomplete, it was not given enough money. But let me ask, Mr. Speaker, if now you had funded a project fully for 5 million, and it is almost the end of the financial year, and we don't have a single cent for development in CDF, what would happen to that 5 million? Wouldn't it be wiser to give 2.5 million so that by the time we get it, when we have 1 month, you start the implementation and complete the next year? So some of these things are just logical. I think that when it comes to the auditors' issues, auditors have to understand so that as they audit, they're auditing from a point of information, not to seem as if they're witch hunting and trying to besmirch names of members of parliament. Mr. Speaker, there is also the issue of value for money for projects. Now, they say that if, for example, you put up a police post, you have spent 2 million, it is properly done, it is completed, but there is no police. Now that becomes an audit query. Or they've done this project, there's no policeman, it's not helping the public. Is a member of parliament or CDF committee the one that is going to provide police to man those stations? So, Mr. Speaker, I think I'm speaking because these are the things that have led to a very high attrition rate of members in this house. Within 5 years, members here will be accused of all sorts of things, and defending their seats will become very difficult, not because they are guilty of an offense, but just because somebody, as they do their work, is not sensitive to the needs and the facts on the ground of what we go through. Mr. Speaker, the CDF board also has issues to answer. I remember the issue of ICT hubs that came up. It's a good idea, the proposal to have ICT hubs. But, Mr. Speaker, you go to our constituencies, they have said that we cannot do these hubs in schools because in third term, you cannot access schools because that is a circular by the ministry. Again, we don't have enough places where we can put up these computers. I've tried to ask the board to allow us, instead of doing 4 hubs, we do 2. And the money for 2, at least I renovate 2 halls so that I can be able to implement those 2. And they have rejected. So that means all 4 will not be implemented. Honestly, I think the board also needs to help us so that we can seem to be doing the right thing. Issue of reallocation, Mr. Speaker, comes we do it because sometimes we just want to respond to the needs of the people. And for us to reallocate money is because what will seem to be a priority before is no longer a priority. Why does the board take so long to allow us to reallocate? And here they complain that some of the constituencies reallocated money without approval. We seek their approval. Let them also extend the process of releasing the reports back to us. Mr. Speaker, this point of empowering our constituency oversight committees has been spoken about. It's really unfortunate that all of us as members, we are supposed to oversight projects, but we have no funds given. So any member who does it from their own pocket. And I think it is important that if you're given a role by your employer and you're supposed to do that job, you should also be facilitated. It is in our constitution, it's part of the law. So Mr. Speaker, I ask that we figure out how to amend that law on CDF so that we can put in there an amount that can be used for facilitating movement and the meetings that will lead towards ensuring that we oversight the projects that are there on the ground. Otherwise, with those few remarks, Mr. Speaker, I support. Thank you.
Honorable Murugara Gitonga.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise to support the motion for adoption of the report on the constituencies in Kisumu and thank the committee for having worked on this immediately after working on Nairobi. We hope soon they will be reaching our counties. My county is Tharaka Nithi, and I would want to have our accounts also audited and brought to this house so that Kenyans can know what exactly we are doing. I do not think that we can overemphasize the very positive impact CDF has had on lives of ordinary Kenyans in the constituencies. In fact, it is CDF whose development has been felt most as far as the rural areas are concerned. We cannot write home a lot about counties because every time they have queries which have to be answered as far as the way they use their money. Even now, it is CDF which has disbursed bursaries to students in secondary schools, in tertiary colleges, and in universities. Counties are yet to do it, and I'm almost sure that they do have the money, but this has not been released. It is very important that this House looks at the mandate of CDF under the Act. I think we need to sit down, look at the Act, both the Public Finance Management Act and the CDF Act, to expand on the scope of what CDF can do apart from the 3 known areas of security, education, a little bit of sports, and education. I think we need to go back to where it used to be before 2015, when CDF was actually working on roads, it was constructing bridges, it was installing electricity, etc. We also need to move the percentage from the 2.5% to say 5 to 10%, because this money really is money that is budgeted for in a very formulated manner. It is actually implemented in one of the best structures that are set by the national government. I think also we need to implore it upon the government and especially the Treasury so that this money is disbursed quickly, it is actually disbursed timeously so that we are able to use it. For this financial year, what we have so far received is a 10 million that came in December, and I'm informed that another 12 million may have come in yesterday, and that is all. From all the allocations of slightly more than 100 million that each constituency is supposed to use this financial year. This is only 22 million. We still have over 88 million out there, which money must be disbursed this year for proper use and accounting by the various constituencies. It is therefore vitally important that the ministry, the treasury, does disburse this money timeously and quickly so that we are able to put it into use. It goes without saying that in most constituencies in this country, CDF is actually very well used. Because we receive those reports here, we are able to go through them, and we are able to confirm that properly used. Members of Parliament are only oversight officers. They sit with the oversight committee and do not apply the money. Therefore, it is wrong for anyone to go out into the constituency to say that MP has stolen the money, that MP has misused the money, because MPs do not come into contact with the CDF funds. Those funds are solely under the control of the CDFC, that is the committee, and under the management of the fund manager, who is actually the CEO. In these circumstances, we would require that the board, which is at the national level, be streamlined. We do have a CEO who is confirmed and who is given the mandate to discharge his duties unabated. Because the reason we say so is a person in an acting capacity is never sure of what to do and not what to do. CDF is very important. It is very important. We must at all times, as members of Parliament, support and emphasize that we actually get this money in time. We must also come together as members of Parliament and, if we can, amend the law so that we are able to allocate more money for more work in terms of what CDF can do and not the few areas that have been left with very little allocation as far as this is concerned. Initially, CDF would be allocated in a constituency about 150 million, 160 million. Today, it is paltry. Doesn't go anywhere above 100 million, and the competing interests of this money requires that we actually get more. This is the only money that Mwananchi does feel at the grassroots, and therefore we encourage that we get more money and we spend more on making lives better for our own citizens. I therefore support and promise that I will actually also be sitting with the other members to look at how best we can improve on the performance of CDF and how we can allocate more money to CDF for purposes of our own people. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I support.
Next is Honorable Kaluma Opondo.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, my colleagues have spoken to the good that CDF is doing to the society. I would not, and I will not dwell on it. Mine would be to emphasize that if we are a nation that truly believes in devolution, then all our funds that we are devolving from the national government downwards should take the form and structure of CDF, both in terms of the manner they are implemented to the manner they are structuralized. You see, Mr. Speaker, my colleagues have said, but I think it bears that we repeat, that this is the only devolved fund where the political leadership only plays an oversight role. If we structured this fund in that manner, I think we would go very far. And this is the only fund where far, far less than 10% of the funding goes to sustaining the processes, the administrative work, the recurrent work of the team down there. You look at the reports of the Auditor General on the devolved funds. These are the funds like, the funds we are taking to the counties, the funds, some of which are managed by even colleagues of ours. They are very difficult to audit. But this is a fund which comes specific to an approved project proposal, to an amount, and together with an authority to incur expenditure. And I think if we structured things that way, if even our county assemblies just structured the monies we are devolving down there, that they could sit down and say, this is going to this health facility, this is going to this stadium, this is going to this road, and they go on that itemized basis to undertake oversight, I believe we would be a first world any day. But Mr. Speaker, there is a reason as to why I was urging to speak on this matter. We are talking about the audit of this fund. And honorable colleagues, I've seen a weakness in these audit processes which we should deal with. Mr. Speaker, since I became a member of parliament several years back, each time you hear the auditors are on the ground with the CDF team, they are with your CDF team in one vehicle going into the villages saying they are undertaking audit. How do you audit a person you are in a vehicle with? And I think the last one I told my CDF team to abandon them somewhere on the road, they go and do their audit. That my team can do the work they should do. My idea about audit, and I'm speaking to the Auditor General and the internal audit system at the CDF, is that it should be an independent process from which even the CDF team, including the member of parliament who sits in the oversight committee, the constituency oversight team, can learn from in terms of the weaknesses in the systems of implementation of the fund down there, to work on. And I remember I was telling my team, you are not engaged to undertake audit with the auditor. In the end, invariably, Mr. Speaker, because of that weakness, you find that these auditors are giving you reports based on who treated them best among the officers of the fund they are working with from constituency to constituency. So I was saying, we must have an independent process. CDF is the fund which is easiest to audit because money will be proposed to the constituency. The constituency cannot get that money before the CDF team sits with the members of the constituency, the constituents, and identify, projects, which are then put in a proposal. The proposal is subjected to verification and approval by the board. The money comes on the head of each project. Mr. Speaker, what an auditor needs to do is to get the approved proposal from the board. Go to my constituency, and in a constituency like Homa Bay Town, just like this one's for Kisumu, I'm looking at, we are dealing with over 80% towards education. So you'll get them into education infrastructure. Just go to my constituency, don't involve my CDF team again. Go to the villages, ask for where Ndiru Primary School is, which is on the proposal. Check whether the 2-block classroom is there. Go to Homa Bay High School, is the library there? Go to Ogande, check whether the dormitory is there. That way you do a report which is independent and which is not, adulterated by the nice talks between members of the team moving together with the auditors. And that way, as people who are merely engaged in oversight, we can help. If we were going that way, we would have given a lot of credit to some constituencies which are not getting their due credit today. Mr. Speaker, let me join Honorable Lago Alwoch. I heard him speak about, our role as members of parliament in oversight and the funding for the oversight committee. Mr. Speaker, I sat in the CDF committee in the last parliament following the nullification of the previous act. And I remember I presided over the making of the CDF regulations. When we sat in a retreat to refine the regulations, we had agreed that the entire money we commit to monitoring and evaluation goes to the constituency oversight committee, because there is no monitoring and evaluation the CDF team is doing beyond their normal administration work. And remember, the regulation we left Mombasa with was that a third of the money allocated to monitoring and evaluation was to go towards the constituency oversight committee. A third of monitoring and evaluation, Mr. Speaker, was to be 1% of the entire CDF allocation. I'm shocked, Mr. Speaker, that we find ourselves in a situation where 1% of the monitoring and evaluation allocation is what is available for oversight, for the oversight team down there. 1% of the monitoring and evaluation fund for most constituencies is 30,000 shillings and below. In my constituency, among the people I sit with in oversight committee of CDF, because I'm not in the CDF committee like all of us, is a former commissioner, because I want people who have the heart for education, a former TSC commissioner who believes in education. How do you share 30,000 shillings among 4 people for a whole year to undertake proper oversight? Because if we had proper oversight, the audit work would be, quite easy and a very easy thing, in my view, to deal with. I want to request the CDF team that what we have in terms of how we are funding the Constituency Oversight Committee was an error in publishing. It was not the last of the regulation provision we had. And this is something, if we had a strong team, and I believe Honorable Maoka Maore is strong enough, Honorable Lesonet, who chaired the CDF committee last time, is still there. Let them sit down. It is merely correcting that regulation. And my view, Mr. Speaker, having noticed how important our oversight is, let us now have the entire money committed to monitoring and evaluation go to oversight. And it's a mere, spelling out of regulations. It is not in an act. It is in the regulations. You put it in the regulations. That way, as a member of parliament, you will, at each time you are at home, going through these projects with your team and ensuring that in as much as you are not in the committee, only the things which benefit the people are happening and in the best thing. The other proposal I wanted to make, Mr. Speaker, is that the government currently has instituted the policy on 100% transition. And let me join, all our colleagues in, commending the government for that act. But, Mr. Speaker, we've brought in 100% transition without equivalent expansion of facilities in schools around. Mr. Speaker, if you go to Uganda Girls today, an extra county, huge school, the school which produced Madam Ida Odinga and others, because of 100% transition and the students are sent there, we have classrooms which are only classrooms a day. From games time, they are being converted into dormitories. We have Mabati structures serving as temporary dormitories for students at Uganda Girls. This is the situation in Homa Bay. I went to Maseno School. I didn't believe that is the Maseno School, which produced 2 students, Mr. Speaker, in the last KCSE exams, in top 10. 5 students in top 30. Maseno School is ruins. My own child was admitted to Maseno. I'm required to take beddings and to take, these things we call mosquito nets. A cubicle, which used to house 8 students, is now housing 30. The facilities are badly expanded. I wanted to suggest to members that now that we are budgeting, either in the substantive budget or in the supplementary, we budget at least 50 million for each constituency to correspondingly expand school infrastructure so that CDF can do these things and we move the nation in a direction that we agree to. Let me thank the President that consistently CDF has been fought, but the President has stood very firmly with CDF because of the good implementation program we've had. We want to request the President to allow us to put funds so that this good policy on 100 transition to better access to education can work. I thank you, Mr. Speaker. I see my red light is on. I thank you so much. I thank you, honorable members.
Very well, very well. Let's have Honorable Gideon Koske, member for Cheparungu.
Thank you, Speaker, for giving me this opportunity to add my voice on what commendable job that the team of Special Fund has done on the CDF report. Speaker, sir, CDF success stories have been ignored in the storm of negativity in terms of cases of mismanagement and corruption by its administrators. And the reality on the ground, that is where Wanjuku is, the success stories and the impact that we have got through the CDF kitty ever since enacted in 2003. It is the only kitty that is very transparent and it is people-driven in terms of projects that are being executed on the ground. It is one of the kitty that the national parliament in Kenya has ever made that is commendable. Mr. Speaker, sir, this kitty has helped a lot with the aim of fighting poverty by assisting constituencies in projects, especially in the education sector. One worry that I want to bring forward in this honorable house is about the security fund that is being allocated through the CDF kitty.
when you look at the funds that we are giving to national police security, it's over 100 billion. That goes, Mr. Speaker, sir, to the security sector. I would then find no reason on this 32 billion that is going to constituencies in Kenya, 32 billion versus 100 billion and above. I would highly recommend that security money be handled by the security departments in this country so that we can allocate more funds to development. When you look at like constituency where I represent, Chepalungu constituency, I have more than 207 primary schools. 173 are registered, 37 not registered. I'm actually leading in the Republic of Kenya in the number of schools because former governor, Bomet County, when he was member of parliament, he actually put forward education and he stood firmly that every 1 kilometer must have a primary school. And that is why the day schools and secondary schools in Chepalungu constituency, there are more than 83. When you look at the kitty that we have, this national cake, that every constituency have the same allocation, it becomes a big challenge in allocating to development in constituency because you have such much to be done versus small kitty. So you can get some of the schools completely, they are using mapatis. Some of the schools, they are using under the tree because of the money that is inadequate to allocate them. I request that maybe going forward, the national government, they should allocate constituency money based on the number of activities that this kitty is meant for, so that we can have equitably rather than equity. Mr. Speaker, sir, I want to thank this team for the commendable work that they did, and it's actually sharing some light to most of us so that we can really understand the impact of CDF kitty in the Republic of Kenya. Thank you for giving me this opportunity, Mr. Speaker, sir, to add my voice on audited report of the CDF kitty in Kisumu County. Thank you, Speaker.
Honorable Edith Nyenze, member for Kitui West.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for this opportunity. Let me take this opportunity to thank the committee for the good work well done, and also thank the committee board for the good work they do on the NG CDF fund. My colleagues have contributed towards the success story of the CDF fund, and this is very true because through this program, there are so many areas where we have seen improvement. We've seen increased rural investment or local investment in the rural areas. We've also seen students who could not go to school going to school. We have seen students who could not even join university. So education has seriously improved. We've also seen chief's offices and assistant chief's offices which have been constructed, which maybe would have taken years, and some of them were on Mabat buildings and very temporary buildings. So there's a lot of improvement which we've seen through the CDF program. Let me also raise this issue of the requirement for emergency funds, especially that the government has said it's 100% transition to secondary school. In my constituency, we have a total of 125 schools, that is primary schools and secondary schools. So we've seen this transition work very well, but now there's a very big challenge where extra classrooms are required in almost all the secondary schools, because you'll find that some students, or most students, are really squeezed in the classrooms and also in the dormitories. So I wish we could also have more emergency or something being done to especially that now this there's this extra students going to secondary schools. I wish the government would fund this CDF through an emergency fund, especially this year, so that we would construct at least one classroom per secondary school, and also expand the dormitories with the time, and also the dining halls, because it's, this one has now become an emergency. Then I will also talk about equitable distribution of funds. As I said, I have 125 schools in my constituency. I happened to have visited another constituency last month, where I found out that they have only 2 secondary schools and 3 primary schools. And now imagine comparing with 125 schools in my constituency. It will mean that one of them will have extra funds while the other one is underfunded. So there is need to ensure that there is equitable distribution of funds in the CDF. Then the other thing which I want to talk about is the environment. Environment and emergency funds really help, especially with the emergency, where we use it, especially in some areas, or like in my school, where you use it for sunken toilets, and also emergencies where roofs sometimes are blown by the wind. But I know with time this will be a thing of the past as we continue to improve the infrastructure. Then the CDF fund should also be expanded to cater for needs per constituency, because the constituencies have different needs. You'll find that, like in my area, the rural area, or the people would expect me to also address water issues, because water in my constituency is a big issue. So they would expect me to address water issues, although you keep on telling them that the CDF, would, the water has been devolved. But I wish we could also have a way of allocating as per need of the constituency, if it is possible, so that we can cater for needs like water and needs like roads, whereby even though they are devolved, they are not reaching the mwananchi the way they are supposed to. The services take too long, and actually there is almost nothing to show, especially where water and roads are concerned. Otherwise, I support the committee for the good work they are doing, and I wish them all the best. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Santi.
Honorable Korere.
Thank you, Speaker. Speaker, I want to take this opportunity to thank the committee for the good job. And Speaker, many speakers, colleagues have contributed before me, and they have clearly stated what good work CDF is doing at the constituency. And Speaker, I think we really don't have to, to put a lot of emphasis, because what is there, anybody can see. Speaker, what we need to do, through CDF and some of these reports you are receiving, especially something I saw in the media the other day, is trying to portray, it is a continued and sustained campaign to paint the honorable members of this House in very bad taste. But Speaker, as clearly demonstrated by the report of the committee, the CDF has done very good job. Speaker, I've heard people here speak about the 100% transition. Speaker, it's interesting where we come from. For example, in Laikipia North, this is where we have a whole division without, a whole division without any public schools. And Speaker, it becomes, very sad when as leaders, we go back home, tell people to take children to schools that has never been built by any government. Speaker, this year alone, in my CDF, in a ward called Sosian, have started 7 new primary schools. And Speaker, you can imagine a 6-year-old child who has to trek for 12 kilometers to access the nearest school in a place where it's invested by wild animals, you know, elephants, buffaloes, name them, Mr. Speaker. And at the end of the day, we want to sit in this house, we want to sit in this republic and blame certain areas for cattle rustling, you know, for banditry, and you just wonder what those children will do. I don't mean that they must do cattle rustling, but you can imagine, Mr. Speaker, in a place where security and insecurity is the order of the day, there are no schools, nobody is taking these children to school, nobody is bothering to build schools for these children. I think CDF has come in handy to uplift some of these places, to take these children where other Kenyan children are. And Speaker, I would just want to plead with the members of this House. We must really relook into the funding of CDF. As we speak, Mr. Speaker, we are in February. We are just a few months shy from the end of the financial year, and up to date, 85% of the CDF allocation to the constituencies has not been released. And Speaker, you know this leaves a lot to be desired, because as we read about the corruption scandals left, center, and right in this country, billions of money being, you know, siphoned through scandals, through corruption, you know, doing dams that are nowhere, not in heaven, not in hell, not on earth, Mr. Speaker. 100 million meant to build school for Kenyan children, meant to pay bursary for children who are completely unable to meet their school fees needs, Mr. Speaker. As we speak, you know, the Treasury is playing games, releasing 10 million, then the next time releasing another 10 million. You just wonder, what does it take, you know, to release the money meant for CDF allocations, Mr. Speaker? And Mr. Speaker, again, as we speak about the 100% transition, we want to thank our president, we want to thank the government for actually acknowledging that every child in Kenya has a right for the free basic primary and secondary education. But again, Mr. Speaker, you know, just saying 100% transition in places where TSC is not providing teachers, you know, there are no infrastructure in place, you can't just take children to some ramshackles in the name of secondary schools and boast and them chest that we are doing 100% transition. I think we need to see more than that done. Having said all of that, Mr. Speaker, you have seen even in the budgeting where the Ministry for Education is allocated, you know, so much funds for infrastructural development. And as Honorable Kaluma mentioned earlier, CDF is a classical example of what devolved funds can do. You know, CDF is reaching out to the lowest unit at our locations, in our sub-locations, even in our villages, Mr. Speaker. You know, it's a bit logics to understand why money should be allocated for infrastructure in the ministry, while the same money can be allocated to CDF, and it does exactly what the ministry purports to want to do with the same funds, Mr. Speaker. If this is not really, you know, sustaining corruption, then you will wonder what that is. Because I really don't want to believe that anybody seated in Ijogo would know what Laikipia North would require in terms of infrastructural development in a school more than that person, that CDF board member who comes from that locality, more than that CDF board member who comes from Kwale, who knows what Kwale needs, Mr. Speaker. I think going forward, we need to strengthen CDF. And when we come into issues of security, Mr. Speaker, a lot of funds has been allocated also to the Ministry of Interior. the Ministry of Interior should come out clearly and spend funds in constructing police posts, because it is ridiculous, Mr. Speaker. Just recently, we were allocating funds to do police posts in some of the places we come, which, Mr. Speaker, you are not a stranger to what is happening in where we come from, Mr. Speaker. And when we forwarded these proposals to the National CDF Board, the proposals were rejected because they purport that the Ministry of Interior is now giving the policemen, house allowance. Now, Mr. Speaker, you wonder, in a place like Wangwashe, even if you were to give the police person, house allowance, where to rent, in places like Nakwang or Lonyek, you give a police officer a house allowance to get a house where. So I think going forward, we need to really look into what CDF is doing. As a house, we need to strengthen CDF. And once again, I want to say the committee has done a very good job. And actually, it is our mandate, it is our responsibility as members of this house to debate from what we are seeing in Kenya, corruption-riddled cases, because for anybody to steal CDF money, you must be completely heartless, and a beast, so to speak, because we are the people who are faced by the problems of this constituents we represent day in, day out, and 100 million is just peanuts when it comes to addressing the problems of the Kenyans we serve. I support, Mr. Speaker, and thank you again.
Shall we have Honorable Tuitoek Kamuren, member for Mogotio?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you for giving me this opportunity to also highlight the successes of the CDF. Thank you, the committee, for a good job done on the statement, on the financial statement. I think, as many members, Mr. Speaker, has outlined, the way CDF has transformed this country cannot be, must really be mentioned that their job has been a well-done job. Since the CDF has come, many schools have changed from being a mud walls to actually classrooms with stone walls. I think the environment, the learning environment, Mr. Speaker, has totally improved in primary schools and secondary schools. Therefore, the purpose or the vehicle, this CDF vehicle, which was initiated, has done great transformation to this nation. The way it has functioned has been successful because the money has gone all the way to the grassroots, all the way to the lowest places. I can imagine my constituency, which is over 500 square kilometers, with over 116 primary schools, with over 28 secondary schools. Right now, we are trying to actually eliminate any school which is still having a mabati or a cal sheet, what do you call them, iron sheet walling. And this is because CDF has enabled us to be able to assist these particular schools. And therefore, when CDF was initiated and given 2.5% of the national budget, I want to say this particular percentage needs to be increased to 5% because CDF has done tremendous work. Even other funds like WESO Fund and Youth Fund has not succeeded very well like CDF. In fact, Mr. Speaker, I'd like to suggest that WESO Fund and Youth Fund also be actually incorporated into CDF Fund so that we can actually be able to assist many youth to initiate various projects. Right now, we are all restricted to secondary schools and security projects. But the work of CDF seems to be really making a lot of changes in the ground. Equally, there was this issue of the CDF being, it was actually shared equally. And some people are actually arguing that we need to look at issues. I think we need to equally share them, but take consideration for poverty index and probably development indexes. For example, here in the city or in many cities, when you give them CDF, probably they don't actually do they don't do new classrooms because already the county is taking care of them. So when we actually give them equal share of the CDF in towns and cities already taken care of by the county governments, it means that most of their money will only go for bursaries. But as we have got the issue of bursaries, which we have always to take care of, we have the issue of construction, which we have to continue expanding primary schools. You heard from one member of parliament saying in their constituency they are talking of a primary school every kilometer. And I think this is in line also that the secondary school should increase, because we are talking about 100% transition from primary to secondary schools. It means if we have so many primary schools, we also need to have very many day schools, secondary schools. So, Mr. Chairman, Mr. Speaker, sir, I'd like to say that the role of CDF need to be examined, need to be closely looked at. I know we've talked about monitoring and evaluation, but also the issue of oversighting those particular funds need to be looked at. We need to put more funds to oversight these particular activities. The committees, the constituency levels need to be supported in terms of oversighting those funds. We'd like to also say the CDF board has actually not been constituted for a long time, Mr. Speaker. In fact, most of the reasons we're having problems with operations of the CDFs because the board don't meet often. We are told the board is not completely constituted, and this we should actually say should be expedited. In fact, we should actually demand that this should be done as possible, because when we try to do various activities within Constitution, within the CDF fund, we are told the board is not there to approve. So we'd like to see a board in place as soon as possible. There's also the issue of infrastructure money, which actually is put in the Ministry of Education. More often, this fund is not shared equally, Mr. Speaker. More often you see when they actually give out this money, they don't actually cover the whole constituencies. I want to propose, Mr. Speaker, that we consider it strongly that this fund, at least a certain minimum, should go to every constituency. A certain minimum of those infrastructure funds, so that if you have to top up other constituencies, at least everybody should get a minimum amount, it may be 10 million or 20 million, so that it can actually help in improving the infrastructure of the schools to supplement what the CDF is doing. With that, Mr. Speaker, I beg to support. Thank you.
Shall we now have Honorable Ali Adman, member for Lamu East?
Asante Mheshimiwa Spika. Mheshimiwa Spika, ningependa kuungana na wenzangu katika kuwapongeza kamati kwa kazi yao mzuri ambayo wamefanya kuhusiana na ripoti ambayo wameleta hapa bungeni. Mheshimiwa Spika, kwa kweli wengi wamechangia kuhusiana na masala haya, hususan hizi pesa za CDF ambazo zinaonekana ama ni pesa ambazo zilianza kulingana na utaratibu kuanzia mwaka 2003. Mheshimiwa Spika. Mheshimiwa Spika, ni vyema Wakenya wafahamu CDF ni nini na mpaka saa hizi ni yapi ambao wameweza kufanyika katika CDF na ni mabadiliko gani Wakenya wameyaona katika fedha hizi. Ukweli ni kwamba Mheshimiwa Spika, fedha hizi kuanzia zianze mwaka 2003 zimeleta mabadiliko makubwa katika Kenya hii na katika maeneo bunge tofauti tofauti. Mheshimiwa Spika, leo hii ni kwamba kuna mengi yanayozungumzwa kuhusiana na maendeleo na mengineo. Lakini ukweli ni kwamba Mheshimiwa Spika, pesa hizi ama fedha hizi zimeweza kuonekana katika sehemu za mashinani ambazo zimeleta maendeleo makubwa katika maeneo bunge tofauti tofauti. Mheshimiwa Spika. Mheshimiwa Spika, faida ambayo imepatikana katika fedha za CDF ni nyingi sana Mheshimiwa Spika. Kinyume cha fedha nyinginezo ambazo zaonekana zatumika katika serikali ya kitaifa na serikali za kaunti. Mheshimiwa Spika. Na hili sitaki liwe ni sifa ambayo twajipa sisi wabunge, kwa sababu Mheshimiwa Spika, lazima Wakenya wafahamu kwamba katika fedha hizi sisi kama wajumbe ni kama oversight, lakini hatuhusiki mahali popote ya kuonekana kwamba sisi ni wahusika katika fedha hizi Mheshimiwa Spika. Lakini kule kwamba fedha hizi zimeweza kutumika kwa mipangilio yake na Wakenya wameziona, huu ni ushahidi kamili Mheshimiwa Spika katika swala zima hili. Mheshimiwa Spika, lakini
tatizo ambalo bado lipo Mheshimiwa Spika mpaka saa hizi ni kwamba Wakenya bado wanahitaji maendeleo. Changamoto ni nyingi Mheshimiwa Spika, na hili lazima serikali ifahamu kikamilifu, kwa sababu Mheshimiwa Spika, mbinu zilizokuwa zatumika namna ya kugawanya fedha hizi katika maeneo bunge Mheshimiwa Spika, hapo awali ilikuwa ina mipangilio yake ya kugawanya fedha hizi Mheshimiwa Spika. Miongoni mwa miundombinu ni kuangalia idadi ya watu na hali ya umaskini katika sehemu hizo Mheshimiwa Spika. Nafikiri utakubaliana na mimi Mheshimiwa Spika, baada ya hapo mbinu hizi ama mipangilio hii ikabadilishwa, ikawa sasa fedha hizi zinapelekwa katika kila eneo bunge zote zikiwa ni sawa. Hakuna eneo bunge lolote labda linapata pesa nyingi, lingine linapata kidogo. Lakini Mheshimiwa Spika, ukweli ni kwamba maeneo bunge hayafanani. Kunazo zile sehemu ambazo zimeendelea na kunazo zile sehemu ambazo bado kuna udhaifu mkubwa na umaskini mkubwa. Mbali ya kwamba kigezo cha kusema kwamba tuangalie idadi ya watu, sidhani kwamba ni kigezo kizuri Mheshimiwa Spika, kwa sababu Mheshimiwa Spika, unapata sehemu idadi ya watu ni kidogo lakini matatizo na umaskini ni mwingi. Kwa hivyo mimi naunga mkono ile pendekezo ama muongozo ya kwamba kila eneo bunge wapewe zile fedha. Lakini Mheshimiwa Spika, ukweli ni kwamba fedha hizi zinazopelekwa katika maeneo bunge ni fedha ambazo zahitaji, naunga mkono waheshimiwa ambao wameweza kulichangia swala hili, zahitaji kuongezeka Mheshimiwa Spika. Na kunao uwezo na njia za kuweza kuongeza fedha hizi Mheshimiwa Spika. Kwa mfano, fedha hizi zimewekewa mipangilio ya kwamba Mheshimiwa Spika zitatumika katika masuala ya elimu, zitatumika katika masuala ya security. Mheshimiwa Spika, vile vile utapata kwamba katika serikali ya kitaifa Mheshimiwa Spika, kuna pesa ambazo zinatengwa kupewa wizara kuhusiana na masuala ya elimu, zina pesa zapewa wizara za security katika masuala wakati bajeti ya Kenya inapangwa Mheshimiwa Spika. Lakini utapata ya kwamba hii ni kama kusema kwamba fedha hizi zinapopelekwa katika wizara ya elimu Mheshimiwa Spika, na matumizi yake ni yale ambayo yamepangiwa, miongoni mwa matumizi ni yale ambayo yamepangiwa CDF kuyafanya Mheshimiwa Spika. Mimi kwa maoni yangu ningesema ya kwamba Mheshimiwa Spika, serikali izingatie pakubwa, ni kama kutumia pesa kwa njia moja. Kwa sababu leo utapata kwamba eneo bunge linahitaji kujengewa madarasa, na fedha zile baada ya kupewa CDF Mheshimiwa Spika, zarudi tena zapewa wizara katika kuifanya kazi hiyo Mheshimiwa Spika. Naona kupitia kwa njia hii Mheshimiwa Spika, ni kama kwamba hizi fedha mwishoe hazionekani thamani yake katika wizara hizi. Mheshimiwa Spika, wajumbe wote ambao uko hapa, kila mmoja atatoka ushahidi pakubwa, ni kwamba zile pesa ambazo hivi sasa twaziona na wananchi wanaziona ni zile ambazo zatumika kwa CDF Mheshimiwa Spika. Zile ambazo zenda kwa wizara, alafu wizara pengine zapendekeza kwamba hiyo ijengwe classroom ama ijengwe madarasa hapa ama ijengwe nini. Mheshimiwa Spika, hizi pesa hatuzielewi zinagawanywa vipi ama zinapendekezwa kufanya maendeleo haya kwa namna gani Mheshimiwa Spika. Mheshimiwa Spika, kwa kweli ni lazima tuyazingatie haya pakubwa, kwa sababu tunavyozungumza ni kwamba nchi yetu iko na malengo na maono katika kuendesha elimu. Lakini Mheshimiwa Spika, changamoto ambazo zipo ni nyingi, na sisi wajumbe Mheshimiwa Spika ndio ambao tunapambana na changamoto hizi katika maeneo bunge yetu mashinani. Mheshimiwa Spika, ni kwamba elimu leo serikali imepanga kwamba watoto wasome bure, imepanga kwamba watoto madarasa yajengwe, lakini Mheshimiwa Spika, utapata kwamba maeneo bunge mingi Mheshimiwa Spika, mipangilio hii ya serikali ambayo imeweza kupendekeza bado hawajaweza kuyakamilisha kikamilifu, kwa sababu utapata kwamba katika shule moja watoto katika darasa moja Mheshimiwa Spika, kwa sababu shule ni bure, wanasoma watoto 100 mpaka 200 Mheshimiwa Spika. Na hii ni hali ya kusikitisha. ingekuwa ni vyema Mheshimiwa Spika, serikali kwanza kabla hawajaweza kuja na mipangilio hii wangekuwa wameweza kufanya utafiti kikamilifu Mheshimiwa Spika, katika eneo bunge zote, katika kaunti zote, na kujua kwamba haya ndiyo yanahitajika kuweza kukamilisha ama kutekeleza yale mapendekezo yao ya watoto kusoma bure. Mheshimiwa Spika, Mheshimiwa Spika, hili swala la kutaka kufanya mambo na Wakenya alafu baadaye kuona wanadanganywa, sidhani kama ni njia moja ya kuweza kutatua matatizo. Mheshimiwa Spika, kuna dharura kubwa ya serikali kuweza kuyazingatia haya, kwa sababu ndio tunataka wanafunzi ama watoto wetu wa kila sehemu wawe wataenda mashule. Tunataka mashule yetu kweli wazazi wasaidiwe mizigo ya kulipa makaro shule. Lakini Mheshimiwa Spika, ningependa kuiambia bunge hili ya kwamba mpaka hivi tunavyozungumza hivi sasa, mipangilio hii haijaweza kuwa na muongozo kikamilifu kule, kwamba matatizo mengi hajaweza kusuluhishika. Mheshimiwa Spika, ningependelea kama wenzangu walivyotoa maoni ya kwamba fedha za CDF, kwa kuwa nina imani kwamba utafiti huu umefanyika na umeonekana kwamba zimeweza kuonekana na kuleta mabadiliko makubwa, basi ziweze kuongezwa katika kuendesha masala haya ya maendeleo katika eneo bunge zote za Kenya hii, na tuweze kuhakikisha kwamba yale matatizo ambao wako nayo jamii katika swala zima hili la elimu na mengineo wameweza kuyasuluhisha. Mheshimiwa Spika, Mheshimiwa Spika, ningependa kuunga mkono ripoti hii ambayo imeletwa bungeni. Asante.
Honorable Manje Wadhigo, member of Kajiado North. Order member. What is it, Honorable Kanchori Memusi? Give him the mic.
I may try my neighbors. Mr. Speaker, my point of order is actually a request. Looking at the interest that the debate is generating and how many we are, and we only have maybe half an hour to go, it means if we continue debating using the same time frame, a lot of us will have sat here for so long without having contributed to this very important motion. So my request, Mr. Speaker, is if we can reduce the debate time so that all of us who've taken time to be here can have a chance to debate. That's my request, Mr. Speaker.
You know, Honorable Kanchori, your request is valid, but your request is only persuasive to the members, because the time taken by a member is defined before the business gets to the floor. But nevertheless, I think probably what you are doing is to persuade the members that I will be giving chances to consider it probably feasible to take shorter time than more members will take. It may not be binding, but from the look of their faces, they look persuaded. But let's see, Honorable Maji, whether he fits that. Order, what is it, Honorable Shege Wajiro? You are on a point of order.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. You know, Mr. Speaker, I've been listening to this debate from yesterday, and I can tell members are repeating similar things. And for me, we have another next order, Mr. Speaker, that I can see my members came very early. They have been sitting here. If it were possible, Mr. Speaker, I would have requested that the mover replies so that we can be able to move to the next agenda, Mr. Speaker. Thank you.
Well, you know, that's fine. This is a business that is on the floor, but I'll take what Honorable Sabina has requested, because she has requested that I get the mood of the House, whether the mover should really be called to reply. But because Honorable Maji was on his floor, on the floor, Honorable Maji, please dispense with your space, then I will confirm from the House whether that is the mood.
Thank you, Speaker. I don't know why it is creating interest when I'm standing, but all the same, I want to contribute to this very important report by the Special Fund Committee that has gone round and has come up with a report of the CDF accounts in Kisumu County, and also it did the same to Nairobi County. So thank you very much, and continue doing this. I hope you'll do the same to other counties. Mr. Speaker, I want to let Kenyans know the CDF model, because it is one of the models that needs to be understood clearly so that people can see how and why members of parliament keep on insisting this is one of the key that is getting to the grassroots. Mr. Speaker, if you check the way money is disbursed by the government, national government, doing projects in the country, and also the county government, is where contractors are contracted directly by the government, either national government or county government. But when it comes to CDF model, money is given through the constituency, then from the constituency to the community. Directly to the community, it's the community that comes up with project management committee. They sit down and erect a committee that will oversee a project. Therefore, this is money by Kenyans themselves. It is like returning the taxes to the taxpayer on the grassroots. And it is the grassroots person who knows what is exactly needed. That is the difference between this model, CDF model, and the other two county government method of taking resources to the grassroots. Mr. Speaker, this model has been benchmarked by other countries. They come to this country and take CDF as a unique model. Therefore, I think it should be really emphasized and also taken care of. Mr. Speaker, I want also to say this money is very true compared to the other money that is allocated to the financing areas. Because if you compare the kit that goes to the CDF as compared to the money that goes to the county, you'll find that in a county that takes about 5 billion, a constituency or the constituency combined, they will take less than 10% of that amount when it goes to the national government. So I tend to think we should increase, because this is the money that goes directly to the people. And the members of parliament, given that they are all in the constituencies, I think they are better praised to see the supervision and implementation of this kitty. Another issue that we have to know is that the members of parliament, to some extent, really supervise this kitty. When they are going around their constituency, checking how the projects are being carried out by the CDF. In other words, they are going to the grassroots. You are giving them reasons to go to where the projects are. And when it comes to oversight of this money, it has a different like the audit the members of parliament. By the way, many members of parliament are evaluated by their constituency through the implementation of the CDF projects. They will tell you this member of parliament is good because he's really building schools, he's building classes, and he's building them to the standard. Meaning that that is another way of making sure that at least members of parliament are properly evaluated by what they are doing. Mr. Speaker, it is not acceptable at this age of our country after so many years of independence, and yet our schools are in very pathetic situations. Members of parliament are able to see them, but unfortunately they don't have enough kitty to renovate them. Like if you go to my constituency, if I get enough kitty, I'll be able to renovate all my schools and they supervise the same. Check the number, the schools. You go to schools, some of these schools, primary schools, they don't have desks. You don't have enough money to do that because the money that goes to the constituency is very little. Compare the amount that we get, divide by the wards that we have. For example, we get about 100 million. You remove the administration and also paying the bills and all that. The little money that is left, suppose you divide it you are left with about maybe 70 million, you divide by about 5 wards, you'll find it's very little money, less than 20 million going to a particular ward, and yet we are expected to build schools, we are expected to build the police stations, we are expected also to do other particular things. Mr. Speaker, I also want to give relevance to members of parliament. Internationally, member of parliament or house of parliaments are international things. They are known as compared to other management units in a country. So we want to give credence to members of parliament to make sure that this position is strong in our country, so that when we go out and we meet our counterpart as a member of parliament, we have something to say. Because if you don't give them resources, if you don't strengthen this seat, at the end of the day, members of parliament will be diluted, and this seat will be diluted, and the House of Parliament in this country will be negated or will be less appreciated by other Kenyans. Lastly, before I sit down, I want to let Kenyans know that members of parliament are not as bad as the way they take them. Because anytime the media is like, it's against the leadership, the members of parliament, and that demoralize those genuine people on the ground, people who would like to serve these Kenyans in good capacity, people who would like to be appreciated. Therefore, I think they should be taken as part of the society, people who are ready to serve this country, people who want to see the good future of this country. So I support this report, and thank you very much for giving me this chance.
Honorable members, there was an earlier point of order by Honorable Sabina Chege asking that I call the mover to reply this particular item. I would like to establish the mood of the House so that then we go with the mood of the House. Honorable members, I would like to put the question that the mover for report on audited financial statements for constituencies in Kisumu County be called to reply. Will as many as are of that opinion say aye? Aye. Will as many as are of the contrary opinion say nay? No. The nays have it. Honorable members, there are still quite a number of members who would like to speak to this particular motion, and I have defined the mood of the House. What is it, Honorable Jeremiah Kioni?
Mr. Speaker, thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mheshimiwa Memuse had a request that so that you accommodate the many interests that are there, you find it within yourself and, of course, from the mood of the House to ask whether we would allow ourselves to speak for a shorter time so that at least majority of those who are here have an opportunity to say one or two things. This is a very important aspect of it, and I'm sure that is why Sabina Chege lost, not because of anything else, but it's because the issue of CDM is so crucial to us as members of parliament and even as a country. So, Mr. Speaker, I am seeking for your indulgence again to find it within yourself to accept the request from Mheshimiwa Memuse.
Very well, Honorable Jeremiah Kioni had spoken to that. I cannot direct members how long they take, but really, I can tell there are quite a number of members who have an interest to speak to this. Should the members be persuaded by Honorable Kanchori to take, they have a maximum of 10 minutes. Honorable Kanchori seems to be persuading members to take less than that so that we have as many members speak to this. I hope they will be persuaded. Shall we have Honorable Kanchori and we see?
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. And let me be an example of what I'm trying to persuade members to do. I'll be very brief on this matter, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the issue of NGCDF has been spoken by members. And before I indulge on what my contribution on the same is, Mr. Speaker, let me start by thanking the committee for coming up with this report. They've done a very thorough job, and for that I thank them. Mr. Speaker, it's about time this House speaks about the billions of shillings that we allocate as a House to ministries. Mr. Speaker, I think this House has a mandate from the people to represent them. Mr. Speaker, every year we are making a budget. Our budget as a country has moved from billions. We are now in trillions. Mr. Speaker, if you look at the accountability of this money, Mr. Speaker, you will not find it. This House, these members allocate ministries through committees billions of shillings. Mr. Speaker, for example, I sit in the Defense Committee. This financial year, a Defense Committee is asking for 115 billion shillings. Mr. Speaker, we appreciate the role that our boys in uniform play in safeguarding the borders of this country. But, Mr. Speaker, we are not a country at war. Every financial year, we are approving billions of shillings for something called modernization and other things. Mr. Speaker, what is our priority as a country? Our priority as a country is to develop our country. I would think that is the priority as a country. And I don't see how all these billions of shillings are helping develop the country. If, Mr. Speaker, you go to a ministry like health, Mr. Speaker, we still have money allocated in that ministry, billions of shillings. And if you go to county governments, if you go to Kajiado District Hospital, Mr. Speaker, people are suffering. They have to go to private clinics, and yet health is a devolved function. Why are we allowing, as members of this House, ministries to duplicate devolved functions? Even speaking about devolution, Mr. Speaker, the drafters of this Constitution, if I was asked, CDF would have been the priority. Devolution would not have been a priority for this country. NGCDF is doing much better than what devolution is supposed to do, Mr. Speaker, and at a very low cost. Mr. Speaker, if you look at, if, for example, I talk even about the referendum that we are expecting to happen in this country, I would urge members who are listening to me that if that referendum comes, we must negotiate on how NGCDF should be strengthened. Because, Mr. Speaker, members have talked about the effects of NGCDF. Members have talked about how NGCDF has changed lives, and actually that is echoed in the grassroots. Mr. Speaker, I would want us as the people who allocate this money to think of the people that we represent, and the people that we represent are ably represented well in NGCDF. From 100 million shillings, Mr. Speaker, we are seeing a lot of improvements in areas that were marginalized. Mr. Speaker, if I was asked, NGCDF should have not less than half a billion shillings every financial year. That goes to bursaries. We actually touch on almost every aspect that Mwananchi cares so much about. Mr. Speaker, so that I set pace on how much time we need to spend, let me leave it at that, because I was the one who had proposed, and I've timed myself, and I've taken 3.5 minutes. The next member should not take more than 2 minutes. I thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I support the report. Thank you.
You know, Honorable Kanchori, I'm the timekeeper this way. So you did not take 3 minutes. You took almost 5 minutes. Nevertheless, it's still a good example. Let's see, Honorable Geshimo Gedenji.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for the chance to contribute to this important motion. Mr. Speaker, I'll also strive to limit myself within a reasonable time so that my colleagues can also have a chance to contribute. And I would start by saying I echo my colleague honorable members' sentiments in supporting the idea that CDF should be strengthened further so that more allocations can be made to the kitty. Mr. Speaker, one of the main challenges that we are facing at the constituency level is infrastructural development for our schools. And going by the government's policy of a 100% transition from primary schools to secondary schools, it becomes even a bigger challenge because every kid has to go to school where there are no classrooms, to schools where there are no dormitories, to schools where there are no other infrastructural requirements, even toilets. Mr. Speaker, I would also support the idea that any money that is meant for infrastructural development, instead of that money being channeled, even if it's allocated to the ministry, let it be shared amongst the constituencies. Because we know where the shoe pains most, other than someone who is sitting at the national level in the ministry. But ourselves, we interact with our students, with the teachers on the ground, with the parents, and we visit these schools, so we know where the problems are. Mr. Speaker, even the money that is meant for, because NGCDF and the whole national population should know, was only left for education and security, the two functions that were left at the national level. Any money that is also meant for security purposes at the constituency level, including development of infrastructure for our ACCs, for police posts and all those kind of things, must also be put separately, even if it's allocated to the Ministry of Interior and National Coordination. At least a certain portion of money should also be given to every constituency so that we can be able to plan with our committees at the local level and develop what we normally see as priorities on the ground. Mr. Speaker, I would stop at that point so that other members can also make their contribution, but I entirely support the report, and I thank the committee for the good work done. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable Oduol Obaka, member for Siaya.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for this opportunity. I'd like to add my voice to this debate on CDF and the role that CDF has played in our communities. It has a big impact, especially in the area of education. I've been monitoring, actually, the education sector as an educationist. And I realized that many schools that have actually been grass-thatched and wall-mud and all that have improved. There are very few that are actually grass-thatched today. In fact, I don't even think that there are any. But still, the status of some of the schools are still very bad. And I would urge members of parliament to concentrate a lot on education, because once you handle education very effectively, you will see that the region, your area, your constituencies are highly improved. What I would like to add to the MPs that handle CDF is that one section of education is totally left out. You concentrate a lot on classrooms and dormitories, but you forget about libraries. Libraries are very, very important for a school. And if we don't put a lot of effort on there, then we will not be able to handle education very well. The other area is bursaries. And I want to say that bursaries, we women reps also do have bursaries. And sometimes there is duplication. You may give a student, a woman rep may give a student bursary, but the same students also benefit from CDF. So we need to harmonize the two. When we women reps give bursaries, we should share our list with the CDF committees so that a student does not benefit twice. I'm also told that governors are also giving bursaries, and you will see that some students will benefit 3 times if we don't watch out. Lastly, is that the way a CDF is being managed is so good to the extent that it should be borrowed by Uwezo Fund and Women Enterprise Fund, because a National Government Affirmative Action Fund operates the same way as CDF. We have also, we have committees. We also write proposals in order to be funded before we take action. And the Uwezo Fund does not seem to do that, nor do we see when they disburse the funds. At least for CDF, we see that when funds are being disbursed, there's a big celebration. The Member of Parliament normally calls members of the community to sit and watch how bursaries are being disbursed or when a classroom is being opened. But when it comes to other funds, we don't see that celebration coming up. Only the women reps and the members of parliament for CDF do that. A request that Uwezo Fund, Women Enterprise Fund, and Youth Fund should work along with all of us so that we are on the same page. Otherwise, I support the report.
Honorable Jeremiah Kioni.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I want to take the opportunity to first say thank you and congratulations to the committee for the job well done. Well done. Secondly is to say that I know we are still struggling with the place of CDF in our governance structure. And I want to mention again that even at those who drafted the Constitution, and we sat at Naivasha again, 27 of us, struggled with that issue. And we made a deliberate decision that we are not going to do away with CDF. It must be part of our system in this country. So even as the issues are finding their way in court, it is important for the judiciary to know that this is an issue that occupied the minds of those who helped in the drafting of this Constitution. And a deliberate decision was taken to ensure that we do not scrap CDF, even with the separation of powers. And I want to say that as the chairman of CIOC, we will sit as a committee and look for ways of ensuring that we guard and protect and make it possible for CDF to continue being there even long after we are gone. The third thing, Mr. Speaker, I want to mention is that there are some audit reports that are being circulated in the media as we sit here, including perhaps what we are saying here. And it is important for me to say this on behalf of myself and on behalf of those others whose reports are in the media, that it is not audit report for the period that is being served by us in members of parliament. It is audit report for the period that was covered by the previous members of parliament. In other words, the audit report is up to 2017 June, and that is way before all of us seated in this house came into office, so that the bloggers can find time to direct their insults to the right persons, because that's what is happening now. We have nothing to do with those expenditures that were done before we were put into office. Mr. Speaker, the other issue that I want to echo is what the Honorable Member Christine has just mentioned. One is that CDF is a model for the whole world, and there are other countries that would want to come and copy. So we should not think at all at any given time to do away with it. We should be looking for ways of improving it so that we can continue impacting on development on the ground. One of the reasons why this kit was put together was because of the skewed manner with which the national government was developing areas in this country. And CDF was brought to bring some harmony. We cannot do away with it. We can only strengthen it. But there are still some teething, they should not be the issues that we should be talking about. But it is important to say that even as we think of how do we come up with a formula that reflects the level of poverty and other issues, including the expansiveness of the regions, we must be very careful, because we have the history of previous formulas favoring regions that were expansive at the expense of regions that were populous. Getting a balance between the two is something that we must continue struggling with. And I think it is also important for us as members of parliament to ensure that something can be seen that was done when you are there, because we still see regions that are stricken with poverty, hunger, people who have no clothing, yet CDF has been there for us for all the time. But as we think about how to bring the other factors on board, let us pay attention to the formulas that are being developed by commissions and the Commission on Revenue Allocation. Mr. Speaker, as I finish, let me say this. Bursary is a very popular thing. It is something that is being used very well by the governors. I keep asking myself whether it is one of the things they should do. But it is not something that we are able to talk about because of how emotive it is. It brings in votes. Let's be a bit bare in saying this. It allows somebody to become popular to the masses. But is it really the law of the county government? Or have they gone out of their way to try and do that which pleases people more, but avoiding to do what they needed to do, like investing in other areas? And on the same note, we must make sure that CDF and the county government and all including the women fund, the things that we have, they are not just turned to become bursary kitties, because all that we seem to be doing is giving bursaries. And once you have given bursary, you want to be seen like you have done development in your area. We must make sure that we don't turn these kitties to just become bursaries. They need to have impact on the ground. If we are able to coordinate ourselves better, we'll avoid duplicating in the awarding of bursaries to people across the board. Because like the previous member has said, we are duplicating. There are those who are benefiting 2, 3, 4 times. And finally, Mr. Speaker, let me say that it is important that we get a board for the CDF. We have sung about this for a long time. And also that the CEO, Mr. Buno, leans on the fund managers. The fund managers are likely to send Buno home before they send us home. Those are now like, they behave like they are the ones who are elected and you are seconded to them. That cannot, if that is the way the CDF Act reads, we must look for ways of amending it. Those fund managers will send members of parliament home on the 5th and 4th year. And I'm warning those who have not seen the danger coming. If they cannot work with you, if they are your bosses at the constituency level, every other person will wonder, why is it that they voted for you? And I want to ask Mr. Buno to rein on his fund managers. If they are raining on him, let him tell us, because we don't have a board. He is there acting for 8 years. We need to find out what is ailing CDF management, because there is something that is not working. This is not the CDF we knew, 10th Parliament. You could impact on your people heavily. As it is now, those fund managers are impacting on new members of Parliament, and I warn you in advance, they will send you home. Watch out. And finally, again, the media, let them report properly. Those audit reports belong to the previous Parliament, not to this Parliament. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Shall we have Honorable John Bunyasi?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir. I rise to also contribute to this extremely important development instrument that we have at our disposal, the CDF fund. The CDF fund has been narrowed down.
You know, I'm hearing, other member, I'm hearing Honorable Oyo Onyango saying or shouting point of order, but he hasn't pressed an intervention. What is
malfunctioning? Mr. Speaker, given in the interest of time and given that this particular motion ends shortly, I would wish that the mover be called upon to reply.
Well, I had just put that, I think you had stepped out. I had established the mood of the House, and the mood was that the members who want to contribute do contribute. So we will stick to that. Honorable Bunyasi.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Sir, I'm sure Mheshimiwa Koyo was not intending to just disrupt me, but let me quickly say a few things. The CDF fund, which is an important development instrument, has been narrowed down to areas around education, areas around a little bit on environment, and even a smaller bit on sports, and of course around issues of security. I find the emphasis on education to be really timely and extremely important. I consider that on the education there are two basic issues. Is facilities development, since the ministry is no longer funding facilities in any consistent way, but it's also to improve access. I come from communities that are largely poor, low income. Nambare, our parents are still struggling to meet even the school fees. That's just the lunch allowance of 9,000 or 10,000 shillings a year. They need support. If we didn't do that, our kids will stay home. And the kids aren't fed in school. There are a lot of challenges that parents have to face. And therefore, I find the bursary giving to be a very positive thing. The money we have is so little. I have over 10,000 students in secondary schools alone that are seeking these funds, over 3,000 students in colleges and universities that need help, not including the TVETs that may soon come on board. So the funds are grossly inadequate. I'm happy that the county government is giving out bursaries as well, because we have a big job at hand. And I understand that in some occasions, the women reps also, the woman rep in charge of BCA also does give money from time to time. All we need to do is to work on how we coordinate among ourselves, but there's no doubt that there is demand and strong demand for it. I want to conclude, because of the shortage of time, so that somebody can have a minute in it, that this investment in security has been left entirely to CDF. Policemen aren't housed, They have these uni huts and nothing happens there. The administrators are not being housed, and the central government must provide some money to improve that infrastructure. We see large funds, we see billions moving every day, and any of that amount exceeds the amount of CDF in total. I hope that the central government will see it fit to think about this country, to put money where it matters. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir.
We have a very, anyway, Honorable Musau Musioka, member for Mwala.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Be very brief. I just want to start by saying that a lot needs to be done across the country because our budget, annual budget, keeps increasing every year. But the amount of work that is being done, the infrastructure development, does not go in hand with the amount of resources that we are pouring. I think our county governments really need to work hard. Less than 30%, and in some cases 20% of the resources that are going to the county government are actually going to recurrent, and very little is left to go to development. Others, governors, especially in county governments, have intentionally caused a lot of wastages. On the CDF, I want to say that the kitty is so small and the expectations are so high. I want to say in my constituency, with 100 million, I get over, like last year I had over 4,000 students. With 4,000 students in colleges and technical institutions, at least all the tertiary institutions, with a bare minimum of allocating probably 9,000 to 10,000 per student, that already takes away over 10 million of the CDF kitty. And you bear me witness that with the amount of allocation, you can barely commit 50 million per financial year to development. And that really is so little. I have over 300 schools in my constituency.
Order, Honorable Musau. I'm afraid it is 1 p.m. This is not to cut you short because you must have your whole lot of 10 minutes. And so we will pay 8 of your minutes the next time that this item comes up.
Thank you.
You will have a remainder of your 8 minutes to prosecute your case on this particular matter.
Guided, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable members, the time being 1 p.m., this House stands adjourned till today, Wednesday, 27th February 2019 at 2:30 p.m.